having debates based on truth at all.
These companies support the Thom Hartmann Program. They are HelloFresh, the #1 meal kit delivery service. More info at HelloFresh.com, code TOM. The Hidden History of Big Brother in America, How the Death of Privacy and the Rise of Surveillance Threaten Us and Our Democracy by Thom Hartmann. More information at all book outlets. Wild Alaskan Company, 100% sustainable wild-caught seafood delivered right to your door. More info at wildalaskancompany.com/Tom. Cozy Earth, better sleep, better you. More info at cozyearth.com, promo code TOM. The latest views and opinions from U.S. politics and other fascinating subjects too, including cutting-edge science reports at hartmanreport.com. And Dinovite, a whole food supplement for your pet's immune system. More info at dinovite.com.
it's Wednesday for the Pledge Drive, and we are rolling along. We're getting some good responses from folks, from you. Thank you so much to those of you who have already called 877-378-8669 and made your contribution or gone to freespeech.org or texted it to us. Thank you so much. We still have a long way to go, and you know, I think of you as my family of superheroes, and so can we all together as superheroes try to hit a $25,000 goal for the day today? This is a big goal, but it's doable, I think, hopefully, knock wood. But it means that I really need you to pick up the phone and call now, 877-378-8669. You know, as they say in the old commercials, call now. Please. There is every dollar you give, whether it's a $5 contribution, a $500 contribution, a $5,000 contribution, it will be doubled by a $50,000 match running for the entire 2-week summer pledge drive period. And from just a wonderful group of frontline funders that Free Speech TV has put together, or that have reached out to Free Speech TV. And by the way, you can be one of these people. Let them know when you call in that you're interested. If you want to really, up your game with regard to helping out Free Speech TV, there's a substantial need here. It's tough running a television network on a shoestring, but that's what we're doing. And you can help a whole lot of ways. Number one, by calling now and making a contribution. Number two, by telling your friends about Free Speech TV. If we can add, if we could double the number of viewers that we had, we could cut in half the length of our fund drives, or increase the kind of programming that we have. I mean, there's just all kinds of stuff that can be done from you telling people about Free Speech TV. But right now, what we need you to do is, if you have the means, if you're able to call now and make your contribution, 877-378-8669. Tip of the hat to our frontline funders, Azra in Illinois, Beth in North Carolina, Bill and Jane in California, Bill in Idaho, Bobby and Vivian in California, Brenda in Texas, Chandra in California, Charlene in Texas, Deb and John in Kentucky, Patricia in Washington, Mac and Tiana in Colorado, Jim in North Carolina, Joe and Heidi in Colorado, John and Susan in Florida, John in Indiana, Joe in D.C., Karen in California, Anonymous in New Mexico, Neil and Ruth in Washington, Ron and Becca in Florida, Shea in North Carolina, Susan in California, Suzanne in Virginia, and Thomas in California. Some just absolutely great people who have together put together this $50,000 match so that whatever you give will be doubled today and throughout the pledge drive. So what a great time to call, and call right now. Wednesdays are sometimes very soft days for fundraising. Let's try to break through that right now and make your call, please, to Free Speech TV. There is, of course, the collection of premiums. There always is. With a $20 gift, you have your choice of the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, or the Take Action, Make History rainbow sticker, or the Free Speech TV Cool Sea, a drink holder. Those are with the $20 gifts. With the $50 gift, you have your choice of the Free Speech TV seed bombs, perfect for the season, right? Get your annuals going here. Or with the $50 gift, the Free Speech TV superhero tote bag, themed around our fundraising program here. So that's kind of cool. With a $75 gift, you have your choice of the Free Speech TV hat, the official Free Speech TV hat, or the official Thom Hartmann Program mug. Available nowhere else, only here through Free Speech TV. With a $100 gift, you have your choice of the book by Lauren Rankin, Bodies on the Line at the Front Lines of the Fight to Protect Abortion in America. Or, that, or the Free Speech TV superhero card set. You can collect all three. There's Deb Haaland, Kamala Harris, and Ketanji Brown Jackson as superheroes. With a $120 gift, you have your choice of the Free Speech TV superhero water bottle, or my newest book, The Hidden History of Big Brother in America, and how it's impacting our democracy. It's a really shocking book, frankly, and insight into everything that is going on in mostly on the web, but all across the whole, including how Russia declared war back in 2014 on Ukraine, a cyber war. You know, what's going on with that? Anyhow, that's all in that book for that $120 gift, The Hidden History of Big Brother. With a $240 gift, you have your choice of the virtual meet and greet, where we all get together on Zoom and hang out and talk for a little bit, or the superhero box set, the tote card, which includes the tote bag and the cards, the superhero cards. That's the $240 gift. With a $1,000 gift, get in line to come here to Portland, hang out with us, and I'll buy you lunch. So those are all the premiums. But the important part is that your contribution is going to keep this network on the air, keep this show on this network. And that's, in my opinion, that's a pretty important thing. And that only happens if enough folks watching right now, like you, call 877-378-8669 right now and say, yes, I want to help. Here's my credit card. So please call now, and or go to freespeech.org. Thank you so much for caring about Free Speech TV.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And greetings, my friends, patriots, lovers of democracy, truth, and justice, believers in peace, freedom, and the American way. There's a lot going on. This morning, in the House of Representatives, there was a hearing in which some of the parents from Uvalde and other parents talked. One of the little girls who covered herself in blood in Uvalde testified. I mean, this is just breathtaking. I have never seen Jim and Poppy over on CNN, both sobbing so hard they were unable to talk for all practical purposes after this testimony. It was just amazing. Steve Scalise, the number 2 Republican in the House of Representatives, he's a House Minority Whip, his response to this whole issue was 9/11. Airplanes were used that day. He told reporters this morning, he said, as the weapon to kill thousands of people and to inflict terror on our country. But there wasn't a conversation about banning airplanes. Right, this is the Republican Party's answer to dead children. There was another Republican, Andy Biggs, who says, I'm not even going to go to the hearings. Right? He's a member of the committee. But he said, no. He says, I will not be physically attending the first panel of the House Oversight and Reform Committee's hearings on gun violence today. I object strongly to the Democrats' exploitation of children who have been victimized so recently in Uvalde. Right. This is the same message that we got from Republicans before when they said, it's too soon to have a debate about legislation. So anyhow, that happened this morning. I'm going to get into a quick recap, but we had 7 elections last night. I'll tell you about those. Also, what's going on down in Florida, how Republicans abandoned democracy in 1960. In our second hour, shocking news out of Poland. They have set up in Poland what Mike Pence tried to do in Indiana back about 10 years ago when he was governor of Indiana, maybe 12 years ago. I don't recall how long ago it was, but it was during the time that I was on the air because we covered it extensively, the whole periods for Pence thing. And that is they set up a pregnancy register in Poland so that they can track women who are pregnant to make sure that they don't get abortions, that they don't order pills from outside the country, because there's a complete ban on abortions in Poland, very Catholic country. So that's in our second hour. Also in South Dakota, voters in that ruby red state just really fought back against a Republican effort to stop Medicaid. I'll tell you about that in the second hour. In our third hour, Sam Lawrence, a 19-year-old in Ohio, from a Toledo suburb in Ohio, is running for the State House for Ohio as an Ohio State representative. 19 years old and a great candidate. He's going to drop by the program and talk with us briefly. So all this is going on. I just brought you up to date basically on the hearings this morning. They were gut-wrenching, tear-jerking, intense stuff. And Attorney General Garland right now is talking about how he's got a team that is going to review the Uvalde police response The Uvalde police chief, who's now a member of the city council, has been in hiding for a week. And Republicans are telling us that they have basically locked this thing down, and they're not going to allow any discussion of what happened in Uvalde until after the election in November, because they think this will. Now, they're not telling us the because part. This is my speculation. But they are telling us you're going to have to wait until after the election to learn what happened in Uvalde. And Republicans down in Texas. And I think this is because Greg Abbott thinks this is going to hurt his electoral chances. He's running for re-election for governor. He's going to be running against Beto O'Rourke this fall. So we'll see how that goes. We had elections all around the country yesterday: California, Iowa, Mississippi, Montana, New Jersey, New Mexico, and South Dakota. A couple of the races really got a lot of attention. Remember about 5-6 months ago, I wrote an op-ed, it was published over on HartmannReport.com, about how crime is going to bite Democrats in the butt if they don't get ahead of this issue right now. And I told the story of how somebody tried to break into our house. We've had 2 neighbors have their homes broken into. Last night there was a guy with a gun running around the neighborhood. It's just, crime has gone nuts, right, all across the country. And in San Francisco, it doesn't appear that this had anything to do with the district attorney, Chelsea Boudin's policies. In fact, San Francisco's crime rates are lower than most other cities its size. But still, crime and homelessness are out of control. This really, I think, is a leftover consequence of really 2 big things right now. One is 40 years of Reaganism, having gutted the American middle class, producing an epidemic of homelessness that was real before the pandemic started. And then number 2, the current pandemic. It's fading right now, but up until very recently, we had this very real problem with the pandemic, and cities being unable to respond to it, police being unwilling to respond to homeless communities, tent cities and whatnot that were being set up because they were afraid of getting COVID, quack, 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 right? So the prosecutor in San Francisco has been recalled. In Los Angeles, we saw the same thing. Karen Bass, a 6-term Democrat in the House of Representatives, was running for mayor of Los Angeles. And Rick Caruso, who used to be a Republican, he's a multimillionaire. He's a billionaire, actually. He poured $40 million into his campaign for mayor of Los Angeles. And now they're going to be in a runoff, Karen Bass and Rick Caruso. And his message used to be a Republican, now he's a Democrat, but his message basically is a law and order message. I'm telling you, this is real. And Democrats have to start messaging about law and order and about, getting crime under control. And if they don't, this is going to be a huge issue in the fall elections. I'm giving you advance warning right now. Also in Iowa, Chuck Grassley he won renomination. He's going to be going up against Vice Admiral Mike Franken, retired Navy Vice Admiral Mike Franken, who beat Congresswoman Abby Finkenauer in that primary. So for the United States Senate, those are the biggest races, frankly. There is that South Dakota story. I'll tell you about that in the 3rd hour because it kind of wanders into a whole nother topic. A whole nother area of information. One last thing. There wasn't a primary in Florida yesterday. And there will be in fact, the primary is in August. And Charlie Crist is running against Nikki Fried. Nikki Fried is the state agriculture commissioner, the highest elected Democrat in the state. And Charlie Crist used to be the Republican governor of Florida. Now he's a Democrat. And he is now polling. Nikki Fried is way behind in the polls right now. She's been a guest on they've both been guests on this program, Charlie Crist as well, multiple times, in fact. But the most recent poll, this out of the Political Matrix Listener Group poll of likely Florida voters, they found Charlie Crist Congressman Charlie Crist is beating Governor Ron DeSantis 50.6 to 49.4. Now, that's interesting. Ron DeSantis, of course, has to win re-election because he's going to leverage this in 2024 for his bid to become, the next Trump, the next fascist or neo-fascist president of the United States on the Republican ticket. So keep an eye on that one, too. By the way, Professor Richard Wolff will be with us in the second hour talking about stagflation. I mentioned the pregnancy register coming in South Dakota and Sam Lawrence. So I think I missed Professor Wolff. So that'll be up in the next hour. We'll be right back. I've got to tell you about how Republicans abandoned democracy in 1960 right after this break. Stick around.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
15 minutes past the hour here on your media support group for we, the people of the United States of America and the world. And welcome back, Jeff in Fort Dodge, Iowa. Hey, Jeff, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Thomas. I'm of the belief now that the oil industry and the big refiners have become just a part of the Republican Party. I believe that they have all come together and figured out now how we can destroy the Democratic Party and Democratic candidates is by holding the gas prices high. I believe we've heard that some of the top oil companies the first quarter had a 300% increase in their money raised. So I think that the Democratic Party is going to have a tough struggle against these big corporations that want to eliminate the Democratic Party.
I agree with you. I completely agree with you. And let me expand the lens on this conspiracy, Jeff. I think it's not just the big oil companies, and of course we know that the big oil companies have been, partisan to the Republicans forever because the Republicans deny climate change, among other things. But also, I think that there's an international conspiracy on this. I think that the Saudis and some of the other major oil-producing kingdoms around the world, countries or autocracies, obviously Russia as well, have been conspiring to maintain high oil prices, not just to enhance their own profits, but also to hurt President Biden because they want to see Donald Trump back in office. Donald Trump,
Go ahead. I absolutely agree, Tom, and I think this $2 billion Jared Kushner from Ben Salman is very suspicious. And I wonder if there wasn't some oil price manipulation there.
Oh, Kushner was the guy who went over to Saudi Arabia back in I forget the month. I think it was May or June. It was of 2020. It was during the first few months of the oil crash or of the COVID crash. And of course, that was when airplanes stopped flying and everybody stopped going to restaurants and everything basically shut down all around the world. And the price of oil had fallen so low that Texas oil producers and Oklahoma oil producers, the oil industry here in the United States, small operations were going bankrupt because they were having to sell oil for below cost. And so Kushner went over there and negotiated a production cut with the Saudis. They cut production 2.2 million barrels a day, and it's still at that point with that cut in place.
Yeah, one of the big talking points here that they're blaming Biden for, I think, is they're saying is the pipeline. And I'm sure they're talking Keystone XL pipeline. And can you explain how that is not American oil? And the Democrats need to explain to people, because we have Republicans here using that talking point about how Biden shut down the Keystone, and that's why your fuel is so high.
It's real simple. The tar sand slurry that flows through the Keystone XL pipeline cannot be made into gasoline. It doesn't have enough high fraction elements in it. It's made into diesel fuel and lubricating oils and things like that. And most of it is exported. That's why the refineries are on the Gulf Coast. So that pipeline, the whole point of that pipeline was to get oil down to the Gulf Coast so that refineries that could handle that kind of heavy crude, that high sulfur crude, could refine it and then sell it overseas. None of that is made into gasoline for the United States. None.
Yeah, and it's not even U.S. oil. It's Canadian Canadian oil. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah. And it's not even oil, actually. It's tar sand slurry. But yes, absolutely. Jeff, thank you for the call. And the problem is that that's factual stuff. And, the Republicans are just lying through their teeth, as usual. We'll be right back. Missed my opening rant today? It's usually published over at HartmannReport.com, where you can read it and share it with your friends for free. Check it out, HartmannReport.com. The recent killing of a young black man in Michigan, Patrick Loyola, who was, the police officer was sitting on his back and put a gun right to the back of his head and shot him, is just the latest example of police killing people out of traffic stops, and predominantly black people. 28% of the people who are killed in traffic stops are black, but African Americans are only 13% of our population. Police in the United States have killed nearly 600 people during traffic stops since 2017. Mapping Police Violence is the nonprofit that's been doing the work on this. About 10% just this year. About 10% of the 1,100 people killed by police this year have been killed at traffic stops. Dante Wright, Sandra Bland, Philando Castile, we know their names and we know their stories, but we're not doing enough to get this under control. Other countries tend not to have this problem. We need to do something now. There's a video about it over at ThomHartmann.com. Check it out. "21 minutes past the hour." So my op-ed today over at HartmannReport.com covered some territory that, those of you who have been watching the program for years and years and years, or listening to the program for years, know that I have covered extensively. A lot of this is in my book, The Hidden History of the War on Voting and The Hidden History of the Supreme Court and the Betrayal of America, both those books. But basically, that Dwight Eisenhower is arguably the last Republican president who actually believed in democracy, the rule of law, and that government should do what the people want. I think you could probably build a case that Jerry Ford might have been okay with that. But, Richard Nixon rose, first of all, in 1960, he tried to beat John Kennedy. He was vice president at the time, by conspiring with the mafia and the CIA to assassinate Castro. He thought that because Kennedy's main thing that he was beating Nixon up on was that he had let Cuba go communist in 1959 when he was vice president. And, it didn't work. And I think you can argue that it even arguably led to the JFK assassination. That's a whole other story. But Nixon's plan in 1960 to use foreign policy to swing an election failed. But he tried it again in 1968. He blew up Lyndon Johnson's peace negotiations with South Vietnam. And, you've heard the clips of that. In fact, no, I don't have it on my 360 here. You've heard the clips of that, and it's just, this is, where Everett Dirksen, where Lyndon Johnson says to Everett Dirksen, I don't want to get this in the election, but I can see what they're doing. I'm reading their hand here, Everett, and they shouldn't be doing this. This is treason. And Everett Dirksen says, yeah, I know. It's treason. That was 1968, Richard Nixon. He came to office using treason. Then Ronald Reagan did it in 1980. By cutting a deal with his campaign, cutting a deal with the Ayatollah Khomeini to hang on to the hostages over the objections of President Jimmy Carter and Iranian President Bani Sadr, who had worked out a deal to get the hostages freed. But the Reagan campaign said to Khomeini, you hang on to the hostages and I'll sell you weapons for your American military, because they had American planes and all of their weaponry was American made because of the Shah. And they needed spare parts and they needed ammunition. And so Reagan in 1980 commits treason in order to become president, or at least the Reagan campaign does. That leads us to George Herbert Walker Bush, who lied us into the war in Iraq by having, this woman testify before Congress that the Iraqi soldiers in Kuwait were throwing babies out of incubators. It was a lie. But, Bush got his little war. It didn't get him reelected. But Bush didn't believe in democracy either. Then we got George W. Bush. George W. Bush was put into office by 5 Republicans on the U.S. Supreme Court 4 of those 5 Republicans had been put into the Supreme Court by Nixon or Reagan before that, right? And I mean, this is just nuts, right? And you know, when the New York Times and the Washington Post and USA Today and the Associated Press, this consortium, did an analysis of the election, counted all the ballots in Florida a year later, in November of 2001, a year after the election, what they found was that by any measure, if you actually counted all the ballots in the state, Al Gore won Florida. And of course, Al Gore beat George W. Bush by 500,000 votes, but Antonin Scalia had said that, you know, we're going to stop the recount in Florida and we're just going to award the presidency to George W. Bush. The Supreme Court gave him the White House. And then Donald Trump colluded with the Russians to become president. So here we have a series of illegitimate Republican presidents. And in my opinion, this is what set up what's going on right now, the Republican embrace of oligarchy and fascism. It's been an incremental process, step by step, all the way from Nixon to Reagan to both Bushes to Trump. And it's leading in the direction of DeSantis in 2024. And this is the direction things are moving, is let's elect a fascist Republican president. And I'm, shall we say, substantially concerned about this. I think it's also time that we just say out loud what appears to be absolutely true, which is that by and large, the Republican Party has ceased to be an honest political party in the United States, a party that makes genuine, credible arguments for things, and has become basically a criminal conspiracy to hold power and to enrich itself and to enrich its members. And we see this right across the board. We saw this morning in this testimony, where Andy Biggs comes out and says, no, Republican Congressman Andy Biggs, I'm not even going to go to the hearing where these people are testifying because I'm owned by the gun industry. You got the fossil fuel industry owning these Republicans who all claim that there's no such thing as global warming. This is how bad the bribery problem is in America. A rant that I'm going to go into in more detail tomorrow on this program, so stick around for that. So what do we do about all this? How do we wake up America? I'll pick up your calls on the other side of the break.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
Defending America from the weapons of mass deception. We'll be right back. Wednesday for the pledge drive, and we are rolling along. We're getting some good responses from folks, from you. Thank you so much to those of you who have already called 877-378-8669 and made your contribution or gone to freespeech.org or texted it to us. Thank you so much. We still have a long way to go, and I think of you as my family of superheroes, and so can we all together as superheroes try to hit a $25,000 goal for the day today? This is a big goal, but it's doable, I think, hopefully, knock wood. But it means that I really need you to pick up the phone and call now, 877-378-8669. As they say in the old commercials, call now. Please. There is every dollar you give, whether it's a $5 contribution, a $500 contribution, a $5,000 contribution, it will be doubled by a $50,000 match running for the entire 2-week summer pledge drive period. And from just a wonderful group of frontline funders that Free Speech TV has put together, or that have reached out to Free Speech TV. And by the way, you can be one of these people. Let them know when you call in that you're interested if you want to really, up your game with regard to helping out Free Speech TV. There's a substantial need here. It's tough running a television network on a shoestring, but that's what we're doing. And, you can help a whole lot of ways. Number one, by calling now and making a contribution. Number two, by telling your friends about Free Speech TV. If we can add, if we could double the number of viewers that we had, we could cut in half the length of our fund drives, or increase the kind of programming that we have. I mean, there's just all kinds of stuff that can be done from you telling people about Free Speech TV. But right now, what we need you to do is, if you have the means, if you're able to call now and make your contribution, 877-378-8669. Tip of the hat to our frontline funders, Azra in Illinois, Beth in North Carolina, Bill and Jane in California, Bill in Idaho, Bobby and Vivian in California, Brenda in Texas, Chandra in California, Charlene in Texas, Deb and John in Kentucky, Patricia in Washington, Mac and Tiana in Colorado, Jim in North Carolina, Joe and Heidi in Colorado, John and Susan in Florida, John in Indiana, Joe in D.C., Karen in California, Anonymous in New Mexico, Neil and Ruth in Washington, Ron and Becca in Florida, Shea in North Carolina, Susan in California, Suzanne in Virginia, and Thomas in California. Some just absolutely great people who have together put together this $50,000 match so that whatever you give will be doubled today and throughout the pledge drive. So what a great time to call and call right now. Wednesdays are sometimes very soft days for fundraising. Let's try to break through that right now and make your call, please, to Free Speech TV. There is, of course, the collection of premiums. There always is. With a $20 gift, you have your choice of the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, or the Take Action, Make History rainbow sticker, or the Free Speech TV Cool Seat, a drink holder. Those are with the $20 gifts. With the $50 gift, you have your choice of the Free Speech TV seed bombs, perfect for the season, right? Get your annuals going here. Or with the $50 gift, the Free Speech TV superhero tote bag, themed around our fundraising program here. So that's kind of cool. With a $75 gift, you have your choice of the Free Speech TV hat, the official Free Speech TV hat, or the official Thom Hartmann Program mug. Available nowhere else, only here through Free Speech TV. With a $100 gift, you have your choice of the book by Lauren Rankin, Bodies on the Line at the Front Lines of the Fight to Protect Abortion in America, or, that, or the Free Speech TV Superhero Card Set. You can collect all three. There's Deb Haaland, Kamala Harris, and Ketanji Brown Jackson as superheroes. With a $120 gift, you have your choice of the Free Speech TV Superhero Water Bottle, or my newest book, The Hidden History of Big Brother in America, and how it's impacting our democracy. It's a really shocking book, frankly, and insight into everything that is going on in mostly on the web, but all across the whole, including how Russia declared war back in 2014 on Ukraine, a cyber war. What's going on with that? Anyhow, that's all in that book for that $120 gift, The Hidden History of Big Brother. With a $240 gift, you have your choice of the virtual meet and greet, where we all get together on Zoom and hang out and talk for a little bit, or the superhero box set, the tote card, which includes the tote bag and the cards, the superhero cards. That's the $240 gift. With a $1,000 gift, get in line to come here to Portland, hang out with us, and I'll buy you lunch. So those are all the premiums. But the important part is that your contribution is going to keep this network on the air, keep this show on this network. And that's, in my opinion, that's a pretty important thing. And that only happens if enough folks watching right now, like you, call 877-378-8669 right now and say, yes, I want to help. Here's my credit card. So please call now, and or go to freespeech.org. Thank you so much for caring about Free Speech TV. Our 1-hour free podcast recaps our show, and it's available wherever fine podcasts are found. And we have the full 3-hour podcast available over at thomhartmann.com if you want to really support our program. Welcome back. 34 minutes past the hour. Don in Paragould. Is it Gould or Gold, Arkansas?
Paragould, named after Jay Gould on the original Federal Reserve.
One of the railroad barons from the late 1800s.
I think he was actually at the creatures from Jekyll Island. But what I'm calling about today is the Republican stranglehold on the state of Arkansas.
Okay. Tell me about it.
Okay, first of all, we had our first congressional district, Rick Crawford ran unopposed. Okay?
A Republican.
Then we have Tom, senator, that's on Fox News 3 times a day and posts on Facebook every 2 hours. Tom Cotton represents less than 800,000 people that voted for him in Arkansas. And now in our governor race, we have Sarah Huckabee Sanders that will probably win. And she's running against a Democratic candidate. Let me tell you the CV of both of these candidates. Sarah Sanders graduated in 2004 with a bachelor's degree in arts, majoring in political science, and a minor in communication. She went to a Baptist college, and not that there's anything wrong with that, but she had to take core curriculum classes on theology, like how to translate biblical Greek and stuff like that, and had to go to chapel to graduate, okay?
Right.
Her father, the ex-governor of Arkansas, is on Fox News hustling vitamins and whatever his food supplements there are, and, his little book about Donald Trump, The Magic of Donald Trump. If you haven't seen that commercial, they got a book for children about Donald Trump. But our Democratic candidate, his name is Crist Jones. He earned a bachelor's degree in physics and mathematics from Morehead College. He has a master's degree in engineering technology, and he has a PhD from MIT in urban development.
Whoa.
What would be better for Arkansas? I mean, we are an urban developing state like you wouldn't believe. But what would be better than we have all these right-wing subsidized rice farmers out here that are afraid that if the Republicans...
Right-wing subsidized. Hang on just a second, Don. For some reason, your phone is going in and out, and sometimes your voice gets really muffled. You have all these right-wing what's?
Well, all of these farms are subsidized, these rice farmers out here.
Oh, rice farmers. Okay.
Yeah. It's all subsidized, the rice.
Huh.
And if they didn't subsidize the rice, these guys would go broke.
Wow.
And so, I mean, and they got this land. You go back to the Martin Luther King thing. They moved out here. They got free land because they were white. They got extension horticulture. They got, land grant universities. They used the Army Corps of Engineers to clear the land.
Sure.
They didn't give any of the land to the black people. I mean, not at all. They couldn't buy it. They couldn't own it. They couldn't rent it. Arkansas has been like that for years, even up to 2002. Look at the Wikipedia page for my little town of Paragould, and you will be shocked by what it says. You'll be shocked.
By what? What does it say that would be shocking?
My point is, up until 2002, they wouldn't hire black people in Paragould.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Oh, wow.
So your point that you were going to, your larger point.
My point is this guy, Crist Jones, needs some national exposure. I mean, your last point...
The Democrat running for governor against Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Yeah.
And I mean, she's got a bachelor's degree in arts and political science. That means she took 24 semester hours in history.
Right.
And 12 hours in mass communication.
Well, education doesn't necessarily make a good governor. It doesn't hurt. It
doesn't hurt, but what qualifies her to be the governor of Arkansas?
Well, she's the daughter of the former governor of Arkansas, and she worked in the Trump administration as his mouthpiece.
And her father is hustling vitamins on Fox News.
Right. Yeah. Amazing. Well, Don, keep us up to date on how it's going, and thanks for
Please,
Go ahead.
Check up on this guy, Crist Jones, and see if you can get him on the air, get him some national coverage.
Okay. I'll look into it. Crist Jones in Arkansas. Thank you, Don. Appreciate the call. Bill in East Los Angeles. Hey, Bill, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. I wanted to just talk about Uvalde because I was just...
Bill, can you get your microphone on your phone right up against your mouth, please?
Will do it. Yeah, sorry. I am... God. Okay. Yeah, I wanted to talk about Uvalde. I've got... there's an article in Texas Observer on texasobserver.org this morning called Uvalde and the Border Patrol Scam.
Right.
And it puts the shooting, it puts what happened down there in context. Speculating on why, the motive for the shootings, but also explaining why there were so many Border Patrol there,
Right. They were the ones who actually rushed the shooter, weren't they?
Yeah.
They overruled the police?
They were, yes.
Yeah.
Ultimately, they were, because they are, in fact, the authority down there. I mean, the thesis of the piece is that the whole area in South Texas is basically a police state, and the main apparatus is Border Patrol. It's supported by local law enforcement, it's supported by state police, but it's there entirely as an occupying force to subjugate the Latino population. And that's exactly how they behaved on that day. Everything was consistent with that. And I just wanted to say, I mean, it's about a 7-minute read, and it's a piece in TexasObserver.org by a writer named Michelle Garcia.
Okay.
And I encourage everyone to read it. It puts the whole situation into context. You know,
Okay.
we're suffering under a constant barrage of, like, as the writer says, toughness and power. You know, from our state, from our government officials. You know, this is a town that has barely any Latino representation. It's all the leaders are white. And this kid, this 18-year-old who shot up that school, he was responding with the only kind of toughness and power that he could find, which was, a gun that turns people into hamburger.
In other words, he was reflecting basically the culture that the city fathers had created, or the city. Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
It isn't just, so obviously, it isn't just the guns, of course, it's the culture. And it's the culture that it's going to be it's a long, constant, never-ending fight to fight against. I
will check it out. TexasObserver.org, Michelle Garcia, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
Bill, thanks a lot for that. Tony in Northampton, Massachusetts. Hey, Tony, what's on your mind today? Thanks for listening to WHMP.
Good afternoon. Gas prices and oil subsidies.
Okay.
Every time you turn the TV on, the first 3 stories, one of them is going to be about the high prices of gas.
Right.
I called my state representative, Richard O'Neill, and my state senator, Ed Markey, and left messages. I'd like to know how much money the taxpayers have paid in subsidies to these companies in the past year and a half. With the profits they've posted this year, they're misguiding their anger at Biden when these people are gouging us.
Yeah. I think that our current subsidies to the fossil fuel industry right now, and this is right across the board, this isn't just oil, this includes natural gas and coal, and it also includes the military cost of protecting shipping lanes to import oil from, like, Saudi Arabia. I think that total cost is estimated to be around $600 billion a year. So, you could divide the American population, or maybe 2/3 of the American population, the adult American population, into, which would probably be, maybe 270 million, 260 million people. Divide that into $600 billion, and you'd get the per-person subsidy. I can't do math like that in my head fast enough to know.
My point is, why are we subsidizing them, and what?
Because they own the Republican Party.
Yeah, that's
I mean, it's very simple. It's very simple. We are continuing to
destroy this country.
Yeah, no, they absolutely are, and this is, when the Democrats proposed in Congress, in the House of Representatives, a bill to reduce the price of oil in the United States through several different means. That were all, I think, quite legitimate. Not a single Republican voted for them because this is why the Republicans continue to deny climate change at the same time that their own districts are getting wiped out by direcos and forest fires and floods and all sorts of natural disasters. Is that, it's money. It's the fossil fuel industry's money and the fossil fuels industry's power. And the reason all that exists, the reason they have that kind of power, is because 5 Republicans on the U.S. Supreme Court over the last 30 years have over the last 50 years, have repeatedly said that if billionaires and oil companies want to own politicians, it's legal. They legalize bribery. Tony, I got to run, but thank you.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
And Tony, I share your outrage. We need to be talking about legalized bribery in the United States because it's a crisis. And it's an epidemic. And welcome back. Martin in Costa Mesa, California, listening on KPFK. Hey, Martin, what's up?
Hey, Tom. Excellent conversations, the one you just had with the last caller, plus this morning another caller who made a point that's very succinctly said something on my mind for the longest time, which you had a great conversation on regarding the fossil fuel industry propping up the Republican Party and how they're colluding to keep the gas prices high.
It's a symbiotic relationship.
To get the Democrats out. And, the point is often brought up by, and then there's also the NRA, and it's the NRA is really merely the public face of the military-industrial complex.
At least the gun manufacturing part of it, yes.
Exactly. And that's, those guys are propping up the Republicans in the same way as the fossil fuel industry. And that's just the point I wanted to make, that, it's people are always looking at the NRA, and that's just the public face of the military-industrial complex.
Yeah. So the question then becomes, Martin, what do we do about it?
Yeah, well, we're subsidizing them as well. Look, we just threw another $25 billion for free on top of the money they had already, the hundreds of, nearly $1 trillion they're already getting. And they just, glibly throw another $25 billion on top of that for free. That was the Republicans.
Yeah. My sense of what we can do about this, Martin, is wake people the hell up. I mean, I don't think most Americans have any idea how extensive the bribery is in this country, how completely owned the Republican Party is by, not just a handful of industries. I mean, they're in with the fossil fuel industry, as we've just discussed at some length. They're in with the weapons industry, as we just discussed at some length. They're in with big pharma. They will not. They're in with the banks. Bail out the banks. That's what both George W. Bush and Donald Trump did, was they bailed out the banksters. They're in with big pharma. They will not even allow a vote on whether Medicare should be able to negotiate drug prices, which is insane. These are people who pretend that they believe in the free market, that they believe in competition, that they believe in capitalism, but they won't allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices. I mean, and they're trying to privatize. Well, they have succeeded in privatizing Medicare. In addition to forbidding it from negotiating drug prices, now the Medicare Advantage plans can negotiate drug prices, but Medicare itself can't. And it's just you stack all this stuff up, and the only conclusion you can come to is that when the Supreme Court said that money equals free speech, that bribery needs to be legal, at least for political purposes in the United States, that it so damaged our republic that, it has converted an entire political party into an organized criminal enterprise.
Yeah, that ties it all together. Yep.
I don't know how to say it beyond that. Martin, thanks a lot for the call, and thanks for pointing it out. I mean, this is an issue that doesn't get anywhere near enough conversation in the media, is the power of these industries to own politicians. And the willingness of these politicians, particularly within the Republican Party. Yes, there's a few Democrats who fall into this category as well. But it is largely the Republican Party where they are absolutely willing to take the money from these industries and do their bidding on Capitol Hill or in state legislatures. The other one that never gets discussed is in state legislatures. We'll be right back. Hey, I've got a new book out. It's called The Hidden History of Big Brother in America, How the Death of Privacy and the Rise of Surveillance Threaten Us and Our Democracy. Available wherever you find fine books. I don't know if you caught this, but there was a piece of legislation before the House of Representatives that explicitly required the U.S. State Department to preserve any evidence of war crimes committed by the Russian forces in Ukraine, to gather reports of it, to preserve it, presumably in anticipation of some sort of a war crimes prosecution. And for reasons I can't quite figure out, maybe you have an idea, 6 Republicans voted against this. No, we don't want the war crimes of the Putin administration to be. Thomas Massie from Kentucky, Scott Perry from Pennsylvania, Marjorie Taylor Greene from Georgia, Warren Davidson from Ohio, Andy Biggs from Arizona, and Paul Gosar from Arizona. I'm scratching my head here. Why would these 6 Republican politicians not want us to preserve the war crimes evidence? There's a video about this that you can see over at thomhartmann.com. 50 minutes past the hour. Marilyn in Savannah, Georgia. Hey, Marilyn. What's up?
Hi, Tom. This is my first time ever calling a show.
Well, thank you. And thanks for listening to Sirius XM.
I listen to you whenever I'm on my car, and I read your reports. And I got to tell you, I'm scared to death. I am the co-chair of our local Democratic Party. I'm 83. I've been a Democrat fighting for democratic principles and values my whole life, and I am up against a wall about what to do, and I'm hoping that you will produce something that we can translate into some kind of meaningful action. How do we wake up people?
Yeah, well, for me, Marilyn, that's my job. I mean, that's what I do every day, is try to wake people up, and for the people who are already awake, to give them the tools to communicate, with people who are not awake. And that's why I do this radio and television program, and it's why I write the Hartmann Report every day, and there's a lot of publications around the country that reprint pieces of it. For individuals like yourself, I mean, you're inside the Democratic Party, you're working in the Democratic Party. That's really, really vital stuff. And the other things, to do, talk to your neighbors, engage in social media, engage in your local community. There's no easy answers, Marilyn. This is going to just take a lot of us, getting active.
Yeah. But I'm trying to figure out how to light the fire. Where do I get the? Yeah.
There's not.
It's just so frustrating.
Yeah. If there was a magic answer, we'd already be doing it. There's not a magic answer. We just have to keep sharing the message with other people. You subscribe to Hartmann Report. Send those along to all your friends when they really resonate with you. By way of information. We need a lot more Democrats engaging in social media. It appears to me quite visibly that several of the big social media companies, that their algorithms favor conservatives and Republicans to the detriment of progressives and Democrats, which makes perfect sense. These are multi-billion-dollar companies run by and large right-wingers. It shouldn't surprise us. But still, engaging in those places, more Americans get their news now from Facebook than any other source, which is pretty shocking. And if you're conservative on Facebook, you can get a couple million followers fairly quickly. If you're progressive, maybe a couple 100,000. But, we still need to engage. We need to engage at every level. Marilyn, I've got to move along, but thank you for calling. Thanks for making your first call. It's great to hear from you. Carl in Chicago. Hey, Carl, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. I have a question, and it's very important about getting information directly to the people. Periodically, like Roosevelt used to have fireside chats to address the nation. Now, the one person in the United States that can actually talk to everybody is the president. If periodically, let's say Biden would say the president is going to address the nation, and let's take 2 things, for example. Let's take the high gas prices, and let's take the problems with the guns with the NRA.
He did that last week.
He sat down and said, here's the reason why. The same information that you give us, the reason why gas prices are too high is because the Saudis have pulled back on the amount of oil that they're sending into the United States, and because they cut a deal with the previous administration, and because of that, we have a shortage of oil in the United States. That's the reason why. Not the Keystone Pipeline. He hasn't stopped fracking. Those are the lies get floated around. And let's say the NRA. Talk about the NRA. What you say is the politicians are getting money from the NRA. You specifically say who's getting the money and exactly how much money they're getting. Why the president in one of these fireside chats wouldn't say the same thing that you're saying, that they're getting X amount of dollars. These are the politicians that are getting the money. This is the reason why we can't get anything accomplished with guns, because of the NRA buying our politicians. Why they don't do those old-fashioned fireside chats when it was more or less mandatory for the networks to carry them periodically,
hang on,
once a month
Carl,
or once every 2 months.
Carl, I get it. Pause for just a second. Let me respond to all this because there's a break coming, in a minute or so. Number one, when Roosevelt was doing fireside chats, there were only 2 radio networks, the Red Network and the Blue Network, and that was the only way that people. We didn't have television. I mean, there was 2 radio networks, so it was a whole lot easier to reach out to all of America. Number 2, Joe Biden did exactly what you're talking about last week. The one thing that he didn't quite do, I mean, he did talk about gas prices and he did talk about guns and he did talk about the power of the NRA. What he didn't do that Donald Trump used to do on a daily basis is he didn't get partisan. He didn't attack the Republicans. And that's because he thinks that he represents all of America. He's the president to all of America. He's the president for Republicans as well. And he's trying to hold to that very noble idea. Whereas Trump would just come right out and say, I'm only the president for the Republicans and the Democrat Party and all this kind of nonsense. Trump used to trash Democrats all the time. But Biden is trying to be the president for all of us. Whether that's going to be a strategy that's going to work out for him and the Democratic Party, I don't have an easy answer, Carl. But you're not going to turn him into a partisan hack. He's not going to do that.
Well, yeah, unfortunately, the major networks didn't carry his speech, and I missed the speech because I thought it was going to be on a major network, and it wasn't. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I caught it on MSNBC, I think, but so.
Yeah, unfortunate. Yeah.
Well, yeah, you're welcome, Carl. I totally get it, and I totally get your frustration, and at some levels I share it. I do think that Biden trying to be president, there's a certain nobility to that, to be the president for all Americans and to not be partisan and to just be the guy who's there for everybody. But it's a very difficult thing to do in an environment where you're constantly being attacked by a political party that is perfectly willing to lie through their teeth in order to defend the people who are pouring money into their back pockets. So here we are. Anyhow, in our second hour, Professor Richard Wolff will be with us. What the hell is stagflation and how does it affect the average person? Also, is a pregnancy register coming to America? Is Mike Pence's dream soon to be fulfilled? We'll talk about that. And also South Dakota and Medicare expansion, or Medicaid expansion, right after this.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
These companies support the Thom Hartmann Program. They are HelloFresh, the #1 meal kit delivery service. More info at HelloFresh.com, code TOM. The Hidden History of Big Brother in America, how the death of privacy and the rise of surveillance threaten us and our democracy, by Thom Hartmann. More information at all book outlets. Wild Alaskan Company, 100% sustainable wild-caught seafood delivered right to your door. More info at wildalaskancompany.com/Tom. Cozy Earth, better sleep, better you. More info at cozyearth.com, promo code TOM. The latest views and opinions from U.S. politics and other fascinating subjects too, including cutting-edge science reports at hartmanreport.com. And Dinovite, a whole food supplement for your pet's immune system. More info at dinovite.com.
for the pledge drive, and we are rolling along. We're getting some good responses from folks, from you. Thank you so much to those of you who have already called 877-378-8669 and made your contribution or gone to freespeech.org or texted it to us. Thank you so much. We still have a long way to go, and you know, I think of you as my family of superheroes, and so can we all together as superheroes try to hit a $25,000 goal for the day today? This is a big goal, but it's doable, I think, hopefully, knock wood. But it means that I really need you to pick up the phone and call now, 877-378-8669. You know, as they say in the old commercials, call now. Please. There is every dollar you give, whether it's a $5 contribution, a $500 contribution, a $5,000 contribution, it will be doubled by a $50,000 match running for the entire 2-week summer pledge drive period. And from just a wonderful group of frontline funders that Free Speech TV has put together, or that have reached out to Free Speech TV. And by the way, you can be one of these people. Let them know when you call in that you're interested. If you want to really, up your game with regard to helping out Free Speech TV, there's a substantial need here. It's tough running a television network on a shoestring, but that's what we're doing. And you can help a whole lot of ways. Number one, by calling now and making a contribution. Number two, by telling your friends about Free Speech TV. If we can add, if we could double the number of viewers that we had, we could cut in half the length of our fund drives, or increase the kind of programming that we have. I mean, there's just all kinds of stuff that can be done from you telling people about Free Speech TV. But right now, what we need you to do is, if you have the means, if you're able to call now and make your contribution, 877-378-8669. Tip of the hat to our frontline funders, Azra in Illinois, Beth in North Carolina, Bill and Jane in California, Bill in Idaho, Bobby and Vivian in California, Brenda in Texas, Chandra in California, Charlene in Texas, Deb and John in Kentucky, Patricia in Washington, Mac and Tiana in Colorado, Jim in North Carolina, Joe and Heidi in Colorado, John and Susan in Florida, John in Indiana, Joe in D.C., Karen in California, Anonymous in New Mexico, Neil and Ruth in Washington, Ron and Becca in Florida, Shea in North Carolina, Susan in California, Suzanne in Virginia, and Thomas in California. Some just absolutely great people who have together put together this $50,000 match so that whatever you give will be doubled today and throughout the pledge drive. So what a great time to call, and call right now. Wednesdays are sometimes very soft days for fundraising. Let's try to break through that right now and make your call, please, to Free Speech TV. There is, of course, the collection of premiums. There always is. With a $20 gift, you have your choice of the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, or the Take Action, Make History rainbow sticker, or the Free Speech TV Cool Sea, a drink holder. Those are with the $20 gifts. With the $50 gift, you have your choice of the Free Speech TV seed bombs, perfect for the season, right? Get your annuals going here. Or with the $50 gift, the Free Speech TV superhero tote bag, themed around our fundraising program here. So that's kind of cool. With a $75 gift, you have your choice of the Free Speech TV hat, the official Free Speech TV hat, or the official Thom Hartmann Program mug. Available nowhere else, only here through Free Speech TV. With a $100 gift, you have your choice of the book by Lauren Rankin, Bodies on the Line at the Front Lines of the Fight to Protect Abortion in America. Or, that, or the Free Speech TV Superhero card set. You can collect all three. There's Deb Haaland, Kamala Harris, and Ketanji Brown Jackson as superheroes. With a $120 gift, you have your choice of the Free Speech TV Superhero water bottle, or my newest book, The Hidden History of Big Brother in America, and how it's impacting our democracy. It's a really shocking book, frankly, and insight into everything that is going on in the mostly on the web, but all across the whole, including how Russia declared war back in 2014 on Ukraine, a cyber war. what's going on with that? Anyhow, that's all in that book for that $120 gift, The Hidden History of Big Brother. With a $240 gift, you have your choice of the virtual meet and greet, where we all get together on Zoom and hang out and talk for a little bit, or the superhero box set, the tote card, which includes the tote bag and the cards, the superhero cards. That's the $240 gift. With a $1,000 gift, get in line to come here to Portland, hang out with us, and I'll buy you lunch. So those are all the premiums. But the important part is that your contribution is going to keep this network on the air, keep this show on this network. And that's, in my opinion, that's a pretty important thing. And that only happens if enough folks watching right now, like you, call 877-378-8669 right now and say, yes, I want to help. Here's my credit card. So please call now, and or go to freespeech.org. Thank you so much for caring about Free Speech TV.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And welcome back to the second hour of our program. On the line with us is our old buddy, Professor Richard Wolff, the economist, the co-founder of democracyatwork.info, the author of numerous books, most recently, The Sickness is the System, When Capitalism Fails to Save Us from Pandemics or Itself. Prof. Wolff with 2 Fs over on Twitter. Professor Wolff, welcome back to the program. What the hell is stagflation? I remember this word from the 80s. And what does this mean to the average person? And are we experiencing it?
Let's go back in back order. We are experiencing it, and the predictions of most people looking at the situation is that it's going to get worse before it gets better. Stagflation is a messy word that is really born out of smashing together 2 other words. The first word is stagnant, and the second word is inflation. And that's the clue. What it means is having at the same time a stagnation in terms of no job increase, factories not humming along as they should, a kind of stagnant economy bumbling along on the one hand, with rising prices of goods and services on the other. It used to be thought that you wouldn't have rising prices unless somehow too much money was chasing after too few goods. So we were told that that's what we should expect to understand an inflation. Then it became clear that we've had inflations when there was a high demand, we've had inflations when there's low demand. Obviously that link was broken, and we admit as much with this term of stagflation, because what we have today is an economy that is not growing and one that is suffering a very bad inflation at the same time.
I thought our economy was growing.
No, our economy is not growing. This is a, how do I put this and stay within the bounds of polite discourse? The people in power need to present an economy that's in good shape, getting better, and all the rest of it. And so they do. When the Democrats are in, they do. When the Republicans are in, they do. When the Republicans are out, they are skeptical, and vice versa. What we have now is an economy in very serious problems. In fact, to be honest with you, I've never seen the American economy as hobbled by problems and as limited in the available solutions that I see now. It's a remarkable accumulation of difficulties. Nobody disputes that there's an inflation, kind of hard to do that these days with the overwhelming numbers. But when you look at the actual production decisions being made today, you can see that everywhere there is great uncertainty, hesitancy about making a commitment. Really, no business in its right mind at this point is going to take chances because it's too uncertain. The political situation abroad, the political conflicts here at home, the uncertainty about our elections, and then all the economic problems. It really is too much. And when that happens, we know that we're in for troubles with our economic situation. Indeed, the only number that the Biden folks can point to is the unemployment numbers. The number of people measured as not employed, basically, is historically small. But the truth of it is, Tom, that's mostly because people have been leaving work. Our labor force participation remains below what it was before the pandemic. And likewise, it's like going to a doctor and asking for a diagnosis. If all the doctor does is look at one variable, for example, your temperature, and bases the entire statement, oh, you're in great shape because you're 98.6, you'd never see that doctor again. You have lots of numbers to look at before you reach an assessment. The constant reference to the unemployment number is a cherry picking of very complicated statistics, which, if you look at all of them, is an economy that's in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, it seems. And this is not limited to the United States. I mean, the World Bank just slashed global growth numbers. The inflation, at least according to the headline I saw in Financial Times day before yesterday, European inflation is 8.1%. Here in the United States, it's around 6.5%. This is hitting the whole world. What are the things? I remember from the 70s and the 80s that the stagflation that, remember Jerry Ford with his whip inflation now buttons, his win buttons and all this kind of stuff. The thing that was driving it back then was high oil prices that were the consequence of the Arabs cutting off our oil, both in 1973 because we supported Israel in that war, and then in 1979, it wasn't the Arabs, it was the Iranians cutting off, their oil got cut off because the Shah of Iran fell. That oil shortage drove an increase in oil prices, and oil prices just echo through everything because everything had, everything, even products that had nothing to do with oil have to be transported with oil, or packaged with oil, or whatever. So what is driving this worldwide stagflation and what are the major risks on the horizon? And do you think, for example, if Joe Biden goes over to Saudi Arabia and kisses the butt of the crown prince, and then he raises, oil production back up above that 2.2 million barrel a day cut that he had that Jared Kushner had negotiated with him in 2020, and oil prices start to drop, will that be enough to help the worldwide economy recover?
I don't think so, not even close. I think we're looking, as I said before, at an accumulation of problems. One of the reasons we have stagflation, is because we have divided the country into a very small number of rich people and a very large number of people who are in deep trouble in terms of what they can afford to buy. You're not going to get a consumer-driven long-term uptick because we don't have the people to sustain that demand. Wages are not going up anywhere near enough. Debts are already too high. They can't borrow more. I saw a very alarming statistic that consumer debt in the months of March and April of this year, the latest that we have, jump up. People are trying to cope with the inflation by going deeper into debt. That's exactly what I mean. You're solving one problem by aggravating another one. Right. Here's the second. No one knows whether the current spate of rising oil and gas prices is going to be over soon or not soon. All kinds of decisions have to be made that cannot be made rationally because we don't know where the basic cost of our gas and oil is going to go. Number three, and I'll stop with four. Number three is this war in Ukraine, or more to be accurate, it isn't the war, it's the sanctions program that has led to every single producer engaged in foreign trade wondering, should I incur all the great expenses to go away from what we have been doing to accommodate these sanctions? Or will I spend a ton of money only to have the sanctions undone by some negotiations later this year or early next year when this whole war is over? And they're not going to move until that issue is clarified. And here's the one most Americans have a hard time understanding. The United States doesn't play the role in the world economy that it did in the 1960s, 70s, and 80s. We are not the dominant economy with no challenger, which we were then. We have not only the People's Republic of China as a major competitor, and let me underscore, we haven't had a major global competitor for a century in this country. We are facing that, and a whole world that is rethinking its alliances, its loyalties, because of the changed position. And that puts the United States in all kinds of constraints as to what it can do. And all corporate executives, American and non-American, are calculating and trying to stay ahead, and as a result, hesitant to move. And that's why the economy is dull. And then you have the overhang of all the money created in the last 20 years. The stock market isn't booming anymore, so that money is going into the inflation that we see, bidding up the prices of whatever is scarce and hoping to keep your money growing that way because the rest of the economy is stagnating.
Wow. Wow. Does, inflation allows governments to pay off debts with cheaper dollars or cheaper, euros or wands or whatever it may be. And presumably it does the same thing for consumers, although, consumers are paying much higher interest rates to begin with. Is there any upside at all to inflation? Is inflation in any way curing any of these problems that you have delineated?
I don't think so. I mean, you're quite right. Inflation is always good for a debtor and bad for the creditor. That's the way the game is played. So no question, the inflation eases the burden of pre-existing debts. But the problem is we have a population that is borrowing money like there's no tomorrow. And as a result, the better effect, if you like, of inflation that cheapens your existing debt is offset by the fact that, as I gave you the statistic a minute ago, people are taking on more debts. And remember, in the last 20 years, because interest rates were brought down to next to nothing, every corporation in America that had any kind of economic problem, whatever that problem was, knew that the quickest, fastest, and cheapest way to deal with your problem was to go out there and borrow all that fresh money at those terribly low interest rates. And they did that, which means their level of debt now is enormous. And while the burden of that is reduced by an inflation, as they have to pay off those debts, they're in no position not to roll the debt over. In other words, to borrow more to offset what they have to pay back. And when they borrow more, they're going to have to pay the higher interest rates, and there negates whatever gain they might have gotten from the fact that inflation cheapens their old debts. It would only be good if there weren't new debts to load up on, but the very difficulty of the American economy means we have to keep loading up in a very dangerous spiral.
Wow. Professor Richard Wolff, democracywork.info, Prof. Wolff on Twitter. Professor, thank you so much.
Thank you, Tom.
Always good talking with you. We'll be right back. It's 18 minutes past the hour.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
Up next is a pregnancy register. Is Mike Pence's pregnancy register coming to America soon? And welcome back, Richard in Little Rock, Arkansas. Hey, Richard, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom, boy, that was a disheartening interview. But I just wanted to.
I guess forewarned is forearmed,
but your call from Paragould, Arkansas, and ask you to get a hold of Crist. He would be a great interview. He's a brilliant fella. He's very positive. You would find it enlightening. You would find it enjoyable.
Sean and I were talking about that during the break. She's reaching out to him literally as we speak. She's sending an email to his campaign.
Super great. Okay, well, he's up against the wall. Sarah has got Trump money. It's like 12 million to 1.
Wow.
She's putting these glossy ads on TV that say nothing other than "I'll fight for you." Her one proposal, she's going to get rid of income tax, and of course that'll just push up our property tax.
Right.
So Chris's wife, just a little bit more, is a pretty renowned emergency room physician at UAMS, and I've seen her on national TV talking about COVID. So that's another neat thing. The family is a good anyway. Chris is also a minister, so
wow. And he's got a PhD in like nuclear physics or something. I mean, this guy is absolutely brilliant.
Yes, his studies were in nuclear physics at MIT. I happen to have a grandson at MIT, and it's no easy school.
Yeah, I know. Now, he and his wife are African American.
I'm excited, and that was a wonderful idea. I'd never thought about it. Of course, the people that listen to you are probably going to vote for Chris anyway, but you might get a few fence sitters off the, that are iffy.
And we might get some people who will, toss in some support to him and his campaign. Richard, Chris and his wife are if I'm remembering correctly, they are African American. Is that being exploited by the Huckabee campaign?
You can't come do it in your face, but yes. Behind the scenes, even worse. I won't quote some of the stuff I've heard. It's ugly.
Yeah.
And it's a shame. And it's just the way things are in this world. But Arkansas, we have less than 40% vaccinated, for example. And you cannot change their minds. They're brain locked. And that goes back to what you just asked. A black person will have a tough time, although we've had a series of interestingly, Little Rock mayors black and city managers, but Little Rock is a Democratic community still. One of the few areas in Arkansas that's Democratic.
Right.
So, and before you ask, by the way, there is a Little Rock, and then there's a Big Rock. The Frenchman LaHarpe saw these coming down the Arkansas River, or up the Arkansas River, and there's a town on down the way called Maumelle, and in French that means it's like the Great Tetons, and the people there don't know that. That's another. It's interesting.
That's interesting.
So Richard, that's just some sidebar stuff.
Richard, thank you so much.
Tom, I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for educating us all about politics in Arkansas. I appreciate it, and what's going on in this particular race. It is 22 minutes past the hour. I'll be back in 60 seconds. We'll talk about Mike Pence's pregnancy register coming to America next month, maybe, if the Supreme Court comes down with their decision this month. We'll be right back. Change starts with you. You can be calling your Democratic or Republican representatives to let them know what you think by calling 202-224-3121. It's the Capitol switchboard. It'll get you right through to them. Back in 1981, the first year of the Reagan presidency, one of our two senators from Oregon here, Mark Hatfield, wrote an op-ed for the Oregon Territory newspaper about the new right, about this whole movement that had seized the Republican Party. And in it, he called them out for escalating nuclear arms, for opposing the Equal Rights Amendment, for opposing abortion, for supporting school prayer, and for their argument that if you weren't on their side, you were not patriotic. He also goes into a long rant about how they're exploiting religion for political purposes, and he thinks it's damaging Christianity as well as America. And then finally he says, finally, persistent threats of racism lie directly below the surface of new right ideology. And then he goes into this whole rant about that. It's really extraordinary how, what Reagan was doing is coming back into vogue. I got a whole video about the whole thing over at thomhartmann.com. Check it out. Welcome back. 24 minutes past the hour. Okay, you'll recall back, oh, geez, I don't know how many years ago it was, but back in the day, back a decade or so ago, when Mike Pence was governor of Indiana, he tried to put into place basically a pregnancy register, a database of all the women in the state and when they got pregnant, so that they could make sure that nobody got an abortion. Or if somebody did, they could rush right over and get them to a crisis counseling center where they could be convinced that Jesus doesn't want them to have an abortion. It led to much hilarity. It led to this whole thing called Periods for Pence, where women all over Indiana were texting and emailing and posting on Facebook. A lot of this was on Facebook. There was a huge Facebook group. In fact, it's still there, Periods for Pence. Where women were saying, okay, I just had my period, Mike. You can calm down for the next 30 days. Nobody took it really seriously because he was not successful in getting it through. But now Poland just did this. In Poland, it is illegal to get an abortion. There are exceptions for rape or incest, but even those exceptions are very, very hard to get around. And in fact, just in the last 2 months, 2 women in Poland have died from not being able to get an abortion, from problematic pregnancies that led to death, where the authorities refused abortion. And what Poland has done now they do have a national healthcare system. So they do essentially have a registry of everybody in Poland and what their conditions are. And they just added pregnancy to this. And the fear of women in Poland is that this registry will be used to make sure that they don't order abortion pills through the mail from France or from Germany or from some other European country where they're perfectly legal. They're not legal in Poland. Or that they'll hop on a plane and fly to France or Germany and get an abortion, or any of the other European countries. And this is against the law. It's against the law for Polish women to leave the country to get an abortion. This is like the same kind of laws as here. This is from Angela Demanowicz-Back. She said, Polish women no longer get pregnant for fear of being forced to give birth. The reasons for fear have just arrived. The pregnancy registry in a country with an almost complete ban on abortion is terrifying. This is, it's got a lot of women in Poland very, very concerned. This is from Common Dreams. A new government database tracking people's pregnancies in Poland is sparking fear that medical data will be used to prosecute women who obtain abortion care in other countries or by getting abortion pills through the mail, and potentially to target women who have miscarriages. First comes the ban, this is the quote, first comes the ban, and then the mechanism for enforcement follows. Well, if the Supreme Court rules the way we think they're going to, we're going to have the ban any day now.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
Will the pregnancy register follow? I'm not holding my breath. We'll be right back. Wednesday for the pledge drive, and we are rolling along. We're getting some good responses from folks, from you. Thank you so much to those of you who have already called 877-378-8669 and made your contribution, or gone to freespeech.org or texted it to us. Thank you so much. We still have a long way to go, and I think of you as my family of superheroes, and so can we all together as superheroes try to hit a $25,000 goal for the day today? This is a big goal, but it's doable, I think, hopefully, knock wood. But it means that I really need you to pick up the phone and call now, 877-378-8669. As they say in the old commercials, call now. Please. There is every dollar you give, whether it's a $5 contribution, a $500 contribution, a $5,000 contribution, it will be doubled by a $50,000 match running for the entire 2-week summer pledge drive period. And from just a wonderful group of frontline funders that Free Speech TV has put together, or that have reached out to Free Speech TV. And by the way, you can be one of these people. Let them know when you call in that you're interested. If you want to really, up your game with regard to helping out Free Speech TV, there's a substantial need here. It's tough running a television network on a shoestring, but that's what we're doing. And you can help a whole lot of ways. Number one, by calling now and making a contribution. Number two, by telling your friends about Free Speech TV. If we can add, if we could double the number of viewers that we had, we could cut in half the length of our fund drives, or increase the kind of programming that we have. I mean, there's just all kinds of stuff that can be done from you telling people about Free Speech TV. But right now, what we need you to do is, if you have the means, if you're able to call now and make your contribution, 877-378-8669. Tip of the hat to our frontline funders, Azra in Illinois, Beth in North Carolina, Bill and Jane in California, Bill in Idaho, Bobby and Vivian in California, Brenda in Texas, Chandra in California, Charlene in Texas, Deb and John in Kentucky, Patricia in Washington, Mac and Tiana in Colorado, Jim in North Carolina, Joe and Heidi in Colorado, John and Susan in Florida, John in Indiana, Joe in D.C., Karen in California, Anonymous in New Mexico, Neil and Ruth in Washington, Ron and Becca in Florida, Shea in North Carolina, Susan in California, Suzanne in Virginia, and Thomas in California. Some just absolutely great people who have together put together this $50,000 match so that whatever you give will be doubled today and throughout the pledge drive. So what a great time to call, and call right now. Wednesdays are sometimes very soft days for fundraising. Let's try to break through that right now and make your call, please, to Free Speech TV. There is, of course, the collection of premiums. There always is. With a $20 gift, you have your choice of the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, or the Take Action, Make History rainbow sticker, or the Free Speech TV Cool See, a drink holder. Those are with the $20 gifts. With the $50 gift, you have your choice of the Free Speech TV seed bombs, perfect for the season, right? Get your annuals going here. Or with the $50 gift, the Free Speech TV superhero tote bag, themed around our fundraising program here. So that's kind of cool. With a $75 gift, you have your choice of the Free Speech TV hat, the official Free Speech TV hat, or the official Thom Hartmann Program mug. Available nowhere else, only here through Free Speech TV. With a $100 gift, you have your choice of the book by Lauren Rankin, Bodies on the Line at the Front Lines of the Fight to Protect Abortion in America. Or, that, or the Free Speech TV superhero card set. You can collect all three. There's Deb Haaland, Kamala Harris, and Ketanji Brown Jackson as superheroes. With a $120 gift, you have your choice of the Free Speech TV superhero water bottle, or my newest book, The Hidden History of Big Brother in America, and how it's impacting our democracy. It's a really shocking book, frankly, and insight into everything that is going on in mostly on the web, but all across the whole, including how Russia declared war back in 2014 on Ukraine, a cyber war. What's going on with that? Anyhow, that's all in that book for that $120 gift, The Hidden History of Big Brother. With a $240 gift, you have your choice of the virtual meet and greet, where we all get together on Zoom and hang out and talk for a little bit, or the superhero box set, the tote card, which includes the tote bag and the cards, the superhero cards. That's the $240 gift. With a $1,000 gift, get in line to come here to Portland, hang out with us, and I'll buy you lunch. So those are all the premiums. But the important part is that your contribution is going to keep this network on the air, keep this show on this network. And that's, in my opinion, that's a pretty important thing. And that only happens if enough folks watching right now, like you, call 877-378-8669 right now and say, yes, I want to help. Here's my credit card. So please call now, and or go to freespeech.org. Thank you so much for caring about Free Speech TV. Hey, thanks so much for sharing our program and for reaching out to our stations and sponsors and letting them know that you're listening. It really means a lot to us. Have you noticed that people are basically imitating Donald Trump all over the country? We're seeing all this rude behavior, sexist, racist behavior, people getting arrested at airport gates, airplanes being turned around because people are fighting with flight attendants, disorderly, rude, unhinged conduct. I mean, it's just gone nuts. Car crashes are up, gun deaths are up, shootings are up. Healthcare workers are being literally physically assaulted in some hospitals. They're having to put together panic buttons. This kind of behavior in our schools is increasing. It looks like, according to some sociologists, psychologists, and even business consultants, it looks like a lot of this ties back not just to the Trump presidency, with Donald Trump providing us with an example of how to be, an obnoxious person, but also the crisis of the pandemic. We've got a deeper dive into this topic over at ThomHartmann.com. There's a great video about it. You can check it out there. Welcome back. 35 minutes past the hour. And, there was one other story I wanted to share with you this hour, and then I'll pick up your phone calls in just a second. South Dakotans went to the polls yesterday. Now, this is a slick little trick here. Democrats in South Dakota got enough signatures on petitions to put a ballot initiative on the ballot for November that would force South Dakota to expand Medicaid. Medicaid, of course, is the program that provides health insurance at no cost to people who are basically the working poor. It varies from state to state. Typically, you've got to make somewhere between $10,000 a year on the low end, or at the most maybe $16,000 or $18,000 a year at the top end to qualify for Medicaid. If you make more than that, then you have to go with the Affordable Care Act and sign up for Obamacare. So this is genuinely poor people. I mean, people making less than $20,000 a year are hanging on by their fingernails in the United States. And the Republicans of South Dakota and the governor, Kristi Noem, do not want the working poor of South Dakota to have access to health care. They come right out and say it. Kristi Noem totally opposed to this ballot initiative. By the way, this will be, if it passes in South Dakota this November, it will be the 7th state, Republican-controlled state, where the citizens of the state came in with a ballot initiative and overrode the Republican state legislature to give themselves Medicaid, to expand Medicaid and give themselves health insurance, which in and of itself is mind-boggling. So anyhow, they got enough petitions, they got enough petition signatures, and they got it on the ballot in November. And of course, under the rules, if you get a majority of votes, 50% plus one vote, it becomes the law of North Dakota. Or South Dakota, excuse me. And so the Republicans in the election yesterday had a constitutional amendment on the ballot that would have kicked the threshold for ballot amendments from 50% plus one up to 60% plus one. In other words, a supermajority in order to give, and this was directed specifically, I mean, it would have applied to any future ballot measures, but it was directed specifically at this Medicare ballot initiative that's coming up in the fall. This is just cruelty on the part of Republicans in South Dakota. Kristi Noem and the other Republicans, they're quite proud of the fact that the working poor don't have health care. Pull yourself up by your bootstraps, right? Find a wealthy patron. So anyhow, the people went to the polls in South Dakota, a bright red state, and by a margin of 67 to 32%, said, no thanks, Republicans. We're going to keep that 50% threshold because in November, we're going to vote ourselves Medicaid for, low-income people in South Dakota. It's just amazing. By the way, this ballot initiative was not only openly opposed with advertising and that kind of support by Governor Kristi Noem, it was also opposed by, according to this report here on commondreams.org, by the powerful Koch network, which spent big on pro-Amendment C ads and mailers. Amendment C was the amendment to the Constitution to say, no, you can't expand Medicaid. So what are we doing with all this stuff? How do we deal with a democracy that's in crisis? Where do we go from here? Edward in Sierra Madre, California. Hey, Edward, thanks for calling. What's on your mind?
Hey, Tom, appreciation and respect for your crew and yourself and your patriotism, man. I really appreciate you guys. Tom,
thank you.
You know, this is my country. You know, when I leave the States, when I've traveled, you know, I miss it when I'm gone. And I'm not going to let fear keep me from taking my country back. And I'm also reclaiming the flag. I'm going to go out and buy a flag. I'm going to fly it over my house. And I'll let everybody know that at this house, there's a patriot. And the reason I called, Tom, is we have to attack voter apathy. We have to recruit the first-time voter. And we have to speak truth whenever we get the opportunity. This morning, and some guy was complaining about gas, and I told him, you know, what I had heard earlier. I said, hey, these oil companies are making record profits. They're hiking the prices up because they know they can. And by the way, Joe Biden is not employed by them. As a matter of fact, they go against him. They spend money with people that are against Joe Biden. Right. So remember that. If you can afford, I told the guy, if you can afford to buy an electric car, buy one. But if you can't, vote these guys out because they're against you, they're against me, and they're against everybody in America who works for a living.
Yeah, and I think the Chevy Bolt with a B is now the cheapest electric car in America, 26 grand, as I recall. Plus, you know, you get the subsidies and things. So, you know, so there's a lot to do there.
America.
Yeah, amen.
I totally believe that.
Yep.
Tom, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Edward. Thanks for the call. Laura in Linwood, Washington. Hey, Laura, what's on your mind today?
Well, Tom, I'm an old-time listener. I go back to 2000, and I don't remember the year, but it was when you were on the radio.
We started on 2003. In April of 2003.
Yep. I remember listening to you, and one of my neighbors told me about you, and I lived in Oswego, Oregon. It's called Lake Oswego now, but when I was born in 1936, it was Oswego.
Oh,
and did you know there was a cement plant there?
No, I didn't.
Well, my father worked in that cement plant, and till the time he died in 1970s.
Wow!
And
now it's an upscale suburb of Portland.
Yeah, well, this was right downtown by the river, and anyway, I didn't call you about that, but that's my hometown. I can't live there anymore because all my kids are up in the Seattle area. So, and I do miss it. I went to the new high school there when it opened up, too.
Right. So let's get to what you called about here, Laura.
Well, I called about is Comcast.
Mm-hmm.
When I went to order Comcast, I had to pay extra to get MSNBC. It isn't on the lowest rate package.
Right. That's not unique to Comcast. That's true of all of the cable TV providers in the country, and that's because that's because MSNBC charges a premium. It's a premium channel, so they charge. That money's going to MSNBC.
That's why. Well, I was mad at Comcast because I could get Fox News
for free, yes.
But I couldn't get Comcast. I had to pay extra to get it.
It's not Comcast's fault. It is not. Your complaint should be directed to MSNBC, and it's another. This is another point, Laura. You know, the people running Fox News are ideologues. They want their message to get out there. It's why Rupert Murdoch was willing to lose $100 million a year for 5 years in a row in order to establish Fox News, because he believes in his message. MSNBC is a business venture originally between NBC and Microsoft, and now owned by whoever owns NBC these days. I don't know, Universal or Paramount or whatever. But anyhow, it's a business venture, and so yes, they've got progressive programming, but they're gonna squeeze as much cash out of it as they can. And the result is a lot of people have cable packages that do not include MSNBC because they chose the bottom tier, the cheapest cable package. So it's a rough one. They do have, however, typically they do have, however, free speech TV, which is important.
Right. I get I get you on YouTube, and I go to Free Speech TV to get you. If I just ask for you, I have to pay something. But if I go to Free Speech TV, and I can get the whole shows on that one.
There you go.
Yeah, and
that's the way to do it.
That's just a tip to people that are hurting for money. So
there you go.
But God bless you, Tom. I'm 85 years old, and I grew up during the war, and it was a bad time, and I don't know why our people are being so upset about the prices of everything, because in the war we couldn't even get them.
Yeah, no, well,
So,
but there was also a war going on. But I get it. Laura, I have to move along, but thank you for the call. It's great to hear from you and from somebody who grew up right down the road from where we live. Thank you so much, Laura. Jessica in Chicago. Hey, Jessica, what's on your mind today?
Hi, Tom. I agree with everyone. I appreciate you and your staff. And the reason I'm calling, I just called the White House and actually got to talk with a person.
Really? Was that the 202-456-1111 comment line?
Yes.
Wow.
And I recommend other people call. I said that Fox News, of all the stations, should not be allowed to broadcast lies during the January 6th hearings. And that's an insurrection in itself. They continue to let their viewers hear the lies, and those are the idiots that need to hear the facts more than anyone. So I told the White House during the hours of the hearing, 7 to 10 p.m., they need to interrupt Fox, and with a national service warning to switch to NBC or ABC.
Okay, I get it.
The woman said, yes, I will let the president know this right away. And so my question to you, Tom, because those idiots, they need the truth. Should I be calling the broadcasting system? I want to call someone else. I'm just livid that Fox can do their own show.
Yeah.
I want them interrupted.
Well, it's what it tells you is that Fox is not interested in news. They've said this themselves in court when they've been sued, that they're not a news station, they're an opinion station. Which is an okay defense. I mean, I'll tell you right up front, I'm doing an opinion show, not a news show. I don't make any bones about it, never have. Although my program doesn't have the word news in its name, unlike Fox News.
Right.
So you've got that, A. And B, in all probability during the January 6th hearing, Sean Hannity's name is going to pop up a lot. And
exactly.
Because he was begging Trump to back off, and he was one of the major people who was apparently involved in this stuff. And so, it's going to be real interesting to see what happens and what shakes out of that. In terms of who to call, Jessica, I don't have a clue. I
recommend people call the White House.
Yeah, there you go. Well, the White House comment line is 202-456-1111. Write it down, stick it on your refrigerator. Jessica, keep up the activism. Thanks for the call.
You're welcome. Bye.
Yep, great talking with you. We'll be right back. It's coming up on 48 minutes past the hour.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Back with your calls in just a moment. It's the place where smart people get their news. And welcome back. Walter in Santa Fe, New Mexico, watching us on Free Speech TV. Hey, Walter, what's on your mind?
Oh, I'm on TV. I'm a little nervous. I've never done this before.
That's quite all right, Walter. It's just you and me here. What's on your mind?
Okay. I'm an old 80-year-old white guy. been successful in life. But anyhow, don't accuse me of being a right winger. I got a bone to pick with you, but don't accuse me of being a right winger.
Okay.
I have not voted for Republicans since 1980. I did not vote for Reagan, and I'm very much against the XL pipeline. I refuse to call it Keystone. I call it XL for extra large, which it is, a 4-diameter pipe, if I understand right.
Right.
But I think you're doing a sleight of hand when you said that tar sands has nothing to do with the amount of oil we have for gasoline. Which I think is what you've been saying, and I think I've heard you say that several times.
Yes, my understanding is that they cannot produce gasoline
right. No,
from
I
that.
I understand all that. But the point is, oil can be made both into diesel and gasoline. Now, if the piece that is now used for diesel were replaced by tar sands, that would free up more oil to make into gasoline. So indirectly, not directly, but indirectly, it would increase the supply of oil for gasoline. And that's, I think, the sleight of hand you're making.
Okay. Arguably, you're right. The complicating factor here, Walter, is that virtually all of the refined products that come out of the Keystone XL pipeline are sold overseas. They're not used in the United States.
I'm not arguing with that, but that's a whole different argument. But
that means that it has net zero effect in the United States.
Well, now you're getting above my head. I don't know. But
well, no, I mean we're bringing something into the United States. We're extracting the poisons from it and throwing it into the air in the United States, and then we're shipping that thing out of the United States. So we get the pollution, but we don't.
I'm not going to let you talk me down on this.
Okay.
But that one point you make, I think, is incorrect. Now, all of this, what you're talking about now, is additional arguments, but it does.
Here's where we might be able to agree, Walter. Back in the 70s, when Richard Nixon was president, 1973 specifically, and the Arab oil embargo happened, he got Congress to pass a law making it illegal for oil companies in the United States, drillers, to export crude oil. It was against the law to export crude oil out of the United States. And the reason why was because they were exporting it, and we had a shortage, and it was causing the price of gasoline to go up, through the roof, and all other oil products, and it was hurting Nixon badly. And that law stood on the books until, I believe, 2016. I might be wrong. It might have been 2015, but it was either the last or the next to the last year of the Obama administration. I think we should bring that law back.
Okay.
What do you think, Walter?
Right. But before I get off, no, I am not from Santa Fe. I just told the operator I'm from New Mexico, and I'd like to leave it at that, but it's not Santa Fe.
All right. You got it, Walter. Walter, thanks a lot for the call. We'll be right back. Stick around. Share the Thom Hartmann Program with your friends. We're available on SiriusXM, Free Speech TV, Pacifica, commercial stations nationwide, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, on the Thom Hartmann app, and you can even tell your smart speaker to listen to the Thom Hartmann Program. Back in 2018, Pastor Dave Barnhart of the St. Juania United Methodist Church in Birmingham, Alabama, delivered a sermon that is worth revisiting. He said, "The unborn are a convenient group of people to advocate for. They never make demands of you. They are morally uncomplicated, unlike the incarcerated, addicted, or the chronically poor. They don't resent your condescension or complain that you're not politically correct. Unlike widows, they don't ask you to question patriarchy. Unlike orphans, they don't need money, education, or childcare. Unlike aliens, they don't bring all that racial, cultural, and religious baggage that you dislike. They allow you to feel good about yourself without any work at creating or maintaining relationships. And when they're born, you can forget about them, because they cease to be unborn. It's almost as if, by being born, they have died to you. You can love the unborn and advocate for them without substantially challenging your own wealth or power. The whole clip is over at thomhartmann.com. Check it out. Welcome back. 54 minutes past the hour. Richard in Baltimore, Maryland. Hey, Richard, what's on your mind today?
How you doing? I'm Tom. You're having a great show, man. I'm really enjoying it, especially the rundown you gave me on the former Republican presidents. That was some really deep stuff there. I want to talk about the gas prices real quick, and I want to say something about the abortion thing as well. I think it's treason what these oil companies are doing since they're in the pockets of the Republican Party. I'm calling it like it is. It's treason. Yeah. It's meant to hurt the country. It's meant to hurt the citizen, and it's meant to change regimes. That's treason.
It's evil politics anyway. I mean, treason is arguably giving aid and comfort to the enemy during time of war. But yeah, I don't disagree with you, Richard.
Right. The abortion thing. Now, I understand that women are claiming that they're taking away the rights on what they want to do to their bodies. The problem I'm having with that, the problem I'm having with how the Democrats and everybody else is looking at this is I'm a minister, and I see it totally different. For one, I say to the Lord that forbids his people to do abortions, but I know that everybody's not the people of the people.
Oh, you work that out with the Lord, not with the government.
Right. That's right. The body of that person that is within that woman, that is not a part of her body.
Well, that's where we're going to disagree. But I'm not going to argue abortion right now. Thanks for the call, Randy in Ackworth, Georgia. Hey, Randy, what's on your mind? It says here you disagree with me.
Yes, thank you, sir. I just wanted to say that I'm looking forward to not watching the production tomorrow night, and I'm looking forward to getting the straight skinny from Tucker afterwards.
Okay. Why?
Because there's several reasons. The committee is a sham. There was the Republicans tried to put several of their own members on that committee, and
then Kevin McCarthy pulled them,
No, not McCarthy. It was Nancy Pelosi. But I'd
yes and no.
If you want to comment, but
no, it's okay.
I'd also like to ask one more question. I'd like to ask one more question. How many of the so-called people that were in the Capitol were nonviolent and just walking around because there was an open door and probably had a policeman greeting them or at least allowing them in? How many people?
Zero. There were no policemen greeting anybody who was going into the Capitol on January 6th. Well, zero. It was closed.
All those people I saw just meandering around like it was.
100% of them had to go by a police officer who had been knocked to the ground. 100% of them. That's the answer, Randy. And if you watch the hearings tomorrow night, you will learn about that. I doubt Tucker's going to tell you. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann.
These companies support the Thom Hartmann Program. They are HelloFresh, the #1 meal kit delivery service. More info at HelloFresh.com, code TOM. The hidden history of Big Brother in America, how the death of privacy and the rise of surveillance threaten us and our democracy, by Thom Hartmann. More information at all book outlets. Wild Alaskan Company, 100% sustainable wild-caught seafood delivered right to your door. More info at wildalaskancompany.com/Tom. Cozy Earth, better sleep, better you. More info at CozyEarth.com, promo code TOM. The latest views and opinions from U.S. politics and other fascinating subjects too, including cutting-edge science reports at HartmannReport.com. And Dinovite, a whole food supplement for your pet's immune system. More info at Dinovite.com.
for the pledge drive, and we are rolling along. We're getting some good responses from folks, from you. Thank you so much to those of you who have already called 877-378-8669 and made your contribution, or gone to freespeech.org or texted it to us. Thank you so much. We still have a long way to go, and you know, I think of you as my family of superheroes, and so can we all together as superheroes try to hit a $25,000 goal for the day today? This is a big goal, but it's doable, I think, hopefully, knock wood. But it means that I really need you to pick up the phone and call now, 877-378-8669. You know, as they say in the old commercials, call now. Please. There is every dollar you give, whether it's a $5 contribution, a $500 contribution, a $5,000 contribution, it will be doubled by a $50,000 match running for the entire 2-week summer pledge drive period. And from just a wonderful group of frontline funders that Free Speech TV has put together, or that have reached out to Free Speech TV. And by the way, you can be one of these people. Let them know when you call in that you're interested. If you want to really, up your game with regard to helping out Free Speech TV, there's a substantial need here. It's tough running a television network on a shoestring, but that's what we're doing. And you can help a whole lot of ways. Number one, by calling now and making a contribution. Number two, by telling your friends about Free Speech TV. If we can add, if we could double the number of viewers that we had, we could cut in half the length of our fund drives, or increase the kind of programming that we have. I mean, there's just all kinds of stuff that can be done from you telling people about Free Speech TV. But right now, what we need you to do is, if you have the means, if you're able to call now and make your contribution, 877-378-8669. Tip of the hat to our frontline funders, Azra in Illinois, Beth in North Carolina, Bill and Jane in California, Bill in Idaho, Bobby and Vivian in California, Brenda in Texas, Chandra in California, Charlene in Texas, Deb and John in Kentucky, Patricia in Washington, Mac and Tiana in Colorado, Jim in North Carolina, Joe and Heidi in Colorado, John and Susan in Florida, John in Indiana, Joe in D.C., Karen in California, Anonymous in New Mexico, Neil and Ruth in Washington, Ron and Becca in Florida, Shea in North Carolina, Susan in California, Suzanne in Virginia, and Thomas in California. Some just absolutely great people who have together put together this $50,000 match so that whatever you give will be doubled today and throughout the pledge drive. So what a great time to call, and call right now. Wednesdays are sometimes very soft days for fundraising. Let's try to break through that right now and make your call, please, to Free Speech TV. There is, of course, the collection of premiums. There always is. With a $20 gift, you have your choice of the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, or the Take Action, Make History rainbow sticker, or the Free Speech TV Cool Sea, a drink holder. Those are with the $20 gifts. With the $50 gift, you have your choice of the Free Speech TV seed bombs, perfect for the season, right? Get your annuals going here. Or with the $50 gift, the Free Speech TV superhero tote bag, themed around our fundraising program here. So that's kind of cool. With a $75 gift, you have your choice of the Free Speech TV hat, the official Free Speech TV hat, or the official Thom Hartmann Program mug. Available nowhere else, only here through Free Speech TV. With a $100 gift, you have your choice of the book by Lauren Rankin, Bodies on the Line at the Front Lines of the Fight to Protect Abortion in America. Or, that, or the Free Speech TV Superhero card set. You can collect all three. There's Deb Haaland, Kamala Harris, and Ketanji Brown Jackson as superheroes. With a $120 gift, you have your choice of the Free Speech TV Superhero water bottle, or my newest book, The Hidden History of Big Brother in America, and how it's impacting our democracy. It's a really shocking book, frankly, and insight into everything that is going on mostly on the web, but all across the whole, including how Russia declared war back in 2014 on Ukraine, a cyber war. You know, what's going on with that? Anyhow, that's all in that book for that $120 gift, The Hidden History of Big Brother. With a $240 gift, you have your choice of the virtual meet and greet, where we all get together on Zoom and hang out and talk for a little bit, or the superhero box set, the tote card, which includes the tote bag and the cards, the superhero cards. That's the $240 gift. With a $1,000 gift, get in line to come here to Portland, hang out with us, and I'll buy you lunch. So those are all the premiums. But the important part is that your contribution is going to keep this network on the air, keep this show on this network. And that's, in my opinion, that's a pretty important thing. And that only happens if enough folks watching right now, like you, call 877-378-8669 right now and say, yes, I want to help. Here's my credit card. So please call now, and or go to freespeech.org. Thank you so much for caring about Free Speech TV.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And welcome back to the third hour of our program. One of the big challenges that you have in a functioning democracy is getting people involved in it. In fact, one of the questions that I would put to you is, my listeners and viewers, is what have you done, or how have you done it, or what successes or failures, frankly, have you had in trying to get people involved in politics, interested in politics, participating in politics, whether it's voting or whether it's joining a party or whether it's running for political office. On the line with us right now is Sam Lawrence. He's a 19-year-old college student, a Democrat, and he's running for Ohio State Ohio State Representative in the 47th District of Ohio. This is the real grassroots stuff, right at the bottom of the. Arguably, I mean, we could go all the way down to school boards and things, but this is where so much is happening in the United States, and it's getting almost no attention. And it is so cool that we've got young people who are engaging themselves. SamForOhio.com is his website. Sam for Ohio is his Twitter handle. Sam Lawrence, welcome to the program, Sam.
Thank you so much for having me, Tom. I really appreciate it.
It is a pleasure and an honor. Tell us what caused you to A, get into politics in the first place, or get interested in politics in the first place, and B, end up being a candidate for, or a potential candidate. I guess you've got to, have you finished the primary, or do you still have a primary?
I will explain all of that, and I will say that there is a primary that is still happening. I'm unopposed, however. Okay. So I'm unopposed on the Democratic side. And thanks for the question. I got involved in politics at a pretty young age. Canvassing for local candidates, Toledo, Ohio's mayor, where I was born, and then worked all the way up to a volunteer position on Pete Buttigieg's presidential campaign 2 years ago. I've always been someone who's watched the news and knew what was going on. However, I decided to really take that next step this year. And it is a question I get a lot. Why are you running as someone who at the start of the race was 18? I turned 19 2 weeks ago. Because we need to, frankly. No one else was running in this district in the 47th, and no one else was planning to, which means that come November, my opponent would have just been able to walk into office. We can't let this happen. It's unbelievable how, not just in Ohio, but across the country, how many state legislative seats, county auditor, county commissioner seats, like you said, school board seats are being left open because nobody even has the drive to run for it.
Oh, in a lot of cases, people don't even know that there is a seat that it would be fairly easy for them to either become a candidate for, or in some cases actually win. I mean, you know, those lower races, the school board races and things, where they're literally begging people to run. So, you know, good on you, Sam.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I do want to say, you said some people don't know that there are seats they can run for. Some people don't even know there's a state house. And I say, I'm running for state representative. And they say, what's that?
Yeah, this is the failure of civics in America.
Right. For the people who don't know, We make laws for the state as opposed to for the nation or at a local level. But it would surprise you how many people don't know that and don't, even if they vote, they don't know that.
Oh yeah, no. In the 1980s, Bill Bennett, when he became the education secretary, essentially took an axe to federal support for civics education in schools. The rationale was we need STEM stuff, and so we got what, 3 generations or 2 generations since then of people who've grown up not understanding how our government works and can't even name 3 branches of government, all that sort of thing. So what's the process like? What process did you go through to become a candidate for state representative in Ohio?
First of all, it's so easy. It is so easy to get on the ballot. And people need to realize that. And so look up if there is someone running for your state representative seat or your school board seat. What I did was I got in contact with my county party and got in contact with the leadership, that's Butler County in Southwest Ohio, and basically waited it out. And then at the end of the day, it turned out no one was running. So essentially, I went to the Board of Elections, filed myself as a candidate. They gave you a bunch of lists that you have to get signatures for within the district, and got the signatures. They get verified, and you're on the ballot.
How many signatures did you have to get?
I had to, it's weird because I got around 150. You need 50 in Ohio. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of them will get canceled out because they're deemed as not legitimate. But luckily, mine were verified.
That is so very, very cool. And
thank you.
Do you have any, I'm guessing, you're going up against a Republican, Sarah Carruthers. I'm guessing that she's going to have some money behind her now. These state races, these state representative and state Senate races are places where for decades now, the Koch machine, the Koch brothers and multiple other right-wing groups have actually poured a lot of money into these things.
Yeah, and you're right that Sarah has a lot of money behind her, and I do want to get into that a little bit. If you didn't know, Tom, she signs her bills Sarah P. Carruthers. That P stands for Proctor, as in Procter & Gamble. She comes from immense wealth, and I've been told that she's willing to put $300,000 of her own money into this race if she needs to.
Whoa. So what's your campaign strategy here, Sam?
Our campaign strategy is that you can't buy elections, which Sarah is trying to do. Besides her own money, a news article recently came out that detailed how she had tried to push $300 million worth of legislation through the State House in 2020 in COVID relief funds for nursing homes. Then 2 weeks later, she received $52,000 in campaign contributions from 4 special interests in the nursing home industry. It's insane how many of these Republicans are openly corrupt. And then when you call them out on it, of course, it's the liberal media and the Democrats, the crazy socialists, and
well, the Supreme Court legalized all this stuff, Sam. That's the challenge we're all facing here in America. Bribery is now legal. It's fully legal. Well, at least in politics. It's illegal if you go into a hotel and you say to the hotel clerk, "Hey, if I slip you a 50, can you upgrade me to the $1,000 night suite?" Right. You can go to jail for that. But if you slip a 50 to a politician and say, "Hey, why don't you advocate for whatever?" There's nothing. Actually, you've got to fill out some forms, I suppose, but that's about it.
Yeah. Right. And that's textbook pay to play, right?
Yeah.
And here's the thing. I am very, very committed to running a positive campaign. And that's what I want to do. And I want to go out there and say, here's why I think I'm qualified for this position. And we'll get into that. And here's why I don't believe Sarah is. But also, here's why Sarah hasn't been doing good things for the district. She recently voted yes on both House Bill 99, which passed the Ohio State House. And don't get lost when I say 99. That bill arms teachers. It lowers the training required to arm teachers in our schools.
Whoa.
Then she voted for the Save Women's Sports Act. I bet you can guess what that one does.
It's an anti-trans law.
It's disgusting. And let me read you a few provisions from the bill. It could require an internal exam if any authority brings an athlete's gender into question.
An internal exam?
The bill could require an exam of her internal and external reproductive anatomy, her normal endogenously produced levels of testosterone, and an analysis of her genetic makeup.
Wow. This
and the Republicans have no respect for our bodies.
I mean, these are the people who for years and years have said, get your government hands off me. And now, oh my God. Yeah, I get it. We're talking with Sam Lawrence. He's a 19-year-old student, a college student, and a Democrat running for the Ohio State Representative 47th District seat. Sam4ohio.com is his website, and Sam4Ohio is his Twitter handle, which is how I found him. And I encourage you to follow him on Twitter. Sam, you wanted to, we're going to hit a break here in a second, but you wanted to lay out, you said in a moment we can talk about my qualifications. Is there more you want to add about what qualifies you to be a state representative in Ohio?
I do, and I think that's important, not just saying, like many Republicans do and like my opponent is doing, this person isn't qualified and leaving it there. I think the key is that young people have different experience, not no experience. On Saturday, I'll be attending the March for Our Lives event in Cincinnati. It's actually happening nationwide, and I encourage you, look up where it is happening because it is probably happening in a city near you. And we are going to turn out in incredible, incredible numbers to show that we're fed up. We're fed up with the gun violence. It's insane. I come from the generation that's had to deal with these school shootings. I've had to watch as people my age and younger than me are gunned down in our schools. And then I have to watch as the Republican politicians, most of whom have never had to deal with this issue, are making laws on it. And frankly, blaming it on mental health. The United States has a mental health problem, but that's not what sets us apart from other countries. It's the guns. Right. And so to answer your question, sorry, I went on a bit of a tangent there, but to answer your question, I think what qualifies me is that I have different experience. Frankly, Sarah worked as a press assistant for a few years. And as I said, she comes from immense wealth. She's a philanthropist. Her family's given away money in Hamilton for years and years. And for that, I'm grateful. However, that doesn't qualify her to legislate. I've worked on 4 campaigns. I have had multiple internships, as well as the fact that I think bringing a new perspective into the State House is a good thing. I think that if you would say, let's put 99 18-year-olds, that's how many seats there are, let's put 99 18-year-olds in the Ohio State House, you might be a little wary. However, our youngest representative is in the district over from mine. His name is Thomas Hall, and I can tell you that he is not representing young people as he says he is.
Well, I would point out that Sherrod Brown, the senator from your state, and a solid progressive and a person I know personally, first achieved elective office at the age of 22, if I'm remembering correctly.
You are correct, and Sherrod is my favorite senator. I love Sherrod, and I think that goes to show that if you are really motivated and really want to make this positive change, then you can go for anything.
Yeah, and you have done it. Sam4ohio.com is the website. Sam Lawrence is the candidate. Sam4Ohio on Twitter as well. Sam, keep it up. Good luck. Oh, and by the way, if on March for Our Lives, folks, if you want to have anybody from that organization reach out to us, we would be glad to give them some publicity for this weekend's gig.
I certainly will. Thank you so much.
Coordinate that with Sean. Sam, great talking to you. Keep up the great work, and I wish you the very best.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you. And you have my official endorsement.
Well, I really appreciate that. Thank you, Tom.
Have a good one. It's 18 minutes past the hour here on the Thom Hartmann Program. Back with more of the news of the day and your calls right after this.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
How do we get more Sam Lawrences into politics? And have you had any success talking to your friends, neighbors about the politics that are coming down this fall? And welcome back. Mike in Whiting, Maine. Hey, Mike, what's on your mind today?
Well, thanks so much for taking my call, Tom. I appreciate it. That Sam guy just blew me away. Well, my goodness, I wish all our candidates were that well-spoken and qualified.
Yeah, amen.
But what I was calling for, the older fellow that called before, talking about the XL pipeline, no one ever talks about how much extra water it takes to push this sludge down the line, and then it's all being dumped. I've heard numbers from 5 to 9 times as much water to push the sludge.
Right.
And that water can never be used for anything again. And it's being dumped in Texas, and then, but that's basically my thing.
And then working its way down to the ocean with all the poisons intact, I'm guessing.
And to the fish, and this PFAS. We just had a big commercial company to give this PFAS sludge from treatment plants to a local guy here in Cherryfield, Maine, and they were mixing it in with this compost and putting it out in people's gardens. And now we've got PFAS in our wells, and all around the area is just infected with the stuff. We've got organic fields that were spreading this stuff on top of the grow crops, and and for fertilizer, nitrogen, and stuff like that. And it's ruined that they can't eat the food that they're growing. We can't even eat our deer. If you're a hunter, they're saying in southern Maine not to eat the deer.
Wow.
It's not safe that the PFAS is showing up in the meat. And I mean, we've got to start holding these mostly Coke industries responsible for the pollutants. I mean, why is it the taxpayer pays for these super funds, and we're picking up the cost, and we're picking it up in our lungs and in our bodies, and they're just getting a free ticket all the way around, destroying our environment, destroying our health, and just rolling in cash. It's sickening. It really is.
The PFAS, these are the perfluorinated, perfluorinated something. I don't remember. But these are the forever chemicals, right? The chemicals that they made that movie Dark Waters out of, or it's been a while. It's been a couple of years since I saw it. And they cause birth defects and cancers and things.
Yeah.
So how did Maine end up contaminated with PFAS?
It's from when LePage was in charge, he allowed these places from Massachusetts to truck in this sludge, commercial sludge, and it got mixed in with compost and put into soils and into when you go to the hardware store and buy a bag of compost, and it's all mixed in. You're taking it home in these bags, and then people are dumping it in their raised top gardens or making gardens. I use living soil. I have my own.
Yeah.
Everything's organic.
Was that because it's so expensive to dispose of PFAS? Because you got to cook them at a really, really high temperatures to cause them to break down. That's why they're called forever chemicals.
I believe so. It's just it was all for money, just like everything seems to be. They don't care
just
about
dilute it.
Hold this home.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Mike, thanks for the report from Maine. I mean, it's disheartening, but I get it. And of course, you had a Republican governor. We should be surprised? I suppose not. Mike, thanks a lot. It's great to hear from you, and thank you for watching Free Speech TV. We'll be back in 60 seconds as we continue our program, and I'll be picking up your calls. Have you had any success talking politics with people? What happens when you try it on social media? Are you finding yourself outnumbered? Are you standing up to people? Do you get battered? Do you get discouraged? What's your experience been? Missed my opening rant today? It's usually published over at HartmannReport.com, where you can read it and share it with your friends for free. Check it out, HartmannReport.com. Back during World War I under President Wilson, we had a windfall profits tax on war profiteers, essentially, of 95% above their normal profits. You were allowed to make your normal profits, but when you started making more than that, 95% tax on that income. President Franklin Roosevelt revisited the exact same thing, windfall profits tax, during World War II, saying he didn't want this war to produce any new war millionaires. During the Korean War, Dwight Eisenhower had a windfall profits tax. During the echo of the fall of the Shah of Iran, when all the Iranian oil was taken off the marketplace and the price spiked, President Ronald Reagan imposed a windfall profits tax on the oil and gas industry to stop exploitation of that. Now we have Senator Bernie Sanders in the Senate and Ed Markey as well, along with him, and Representative Jamal Bowman in the House saying, let's do the same thing now. There's a whole video about it over at ThomHartmann.com. Check it out. "24 minutes past the hour. Welcome back. This is Sam Lawrence is so inspiring. I mean, these are the stories that we need to hear, I think, and the folks that we need to be encouraging. So picking up your phone calls, Lance in Columbus, Ohio. Hey, Lance, what's on your mind today? Lance, listening on WCPT in Columbus, Ohio? Nope, I'm not seeing Lance. So let's try Richard in Chicago, speaking of WCPT. Hey, Richard, what's on your mind today?
Hi, I hope I can do this, get this out intelligently, because I don't have an answer. I'm trying to figure out why prices at the pump for gasoline and even oil is so high. And I'm understanding, the homilies, the supply and demand and all that. And we all know that there's no shortage, but it's oil's futures, is the trading of oil futures, right? Mm-hmm. And it turns out only 3% of the oil's futures contracts actually involve delivering oil. And when they expire, they just expire.
Right. Most of them are speculation.
Yeah. And the thing is that, I kind of understand how wheat is and other things. I mean, that is a commodity. But if you wanted to buy some wheat, you can buy it. It's clear cut. But here it seems like there's a bit of, not necessarily a subterfuge, but it's being used. I mean, we don't know what these oil companies are really buying and paying for oil. Mm-hmm. We rely on it. I'd love to have somebody, like the economist you had on, explain, because, this affects all of us. And we're all yelling and screaming about it, but we don't know, really much about the real process of an oil company buying oil from a producer. And there's all sorts of terminology that they use, forwards, and I just wrote another one down, but it doesn't matter. The thing I'm getting at is I think I just think that...
you think the industry has us buffaloed?
Yeah.
That might have something to do with why they're showing record profits.
Well, it certainly might. That's the whole point, is if people are mad at Biden, they're mad at whatever. And the thing is, they're mad at the wrong people, perhaps, or at least understand, really what is going on. How does the oil get to the gas pump? They talk about refineries. The refineries are fewer of them, but they have much higher capacity. There is no problem. They're blame it on just nonsense, and usually it's political. Like, Biden doesn't like oil, right?
I'm of the opinion that the oil industry, the corporate oil industry, the Saudi government, the Russian government are all working together. I realize this sounds paranoid, but I think they're all working together to try to bring down Biden and bring Trump back into power, frankly.
I think, and line their pockets.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that would be the side effect. Thank you, Richard.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-808-9925.
But what say you? I'll pick up your calls right after this break. Wednesday for the pledge drive, and we are rolling along. We're getting some good responses from folks, from you. Thank you so much to those of you who have already called 877-378-8669 and made your contribution or gone to freespeech.org or texted it to us. Thank you so much. We still have a long way to go, and I think of you as my family of superheroes, and so can we all together as superheroes try to hit a $25,000 goal for the day today? This is a big goal, but it's doable, I think, hopefully, knock wood. But it means that I really need you to pick up the phone and call now, 877-378-8669. As they say in the old commercials, call now. Please. There is every dollar you give, whether it's a $5 contribution, a $500 contribution, a $5,000 contribution, it will be doubled by a $50,000 match running for the entire 2-week summer pledge drive period. And from just a wonderful group of frontline funders that Free Speech TV has put together, or that have reached out to Free Speech TV. And by the way, you can be one of these people. Let them know when you call in that you're interested. If you want to really, up your game with regard to helping out Free Speech TV, there's a substantial need here. It's tough running a television network on a shoestring, but that's what we're doing. And, you can help a whole lot of ways. Number one, by calling now and making a contribution. Number two, by telling your friends about Free Speech TV. If we can add, if we could double the number of viewers that we had, we could cut in half the length of our fund drives or increase the kind of programming that we have. I mean, there's just all kinds of stuff that can be done from you telling people about Free Speech TV. But right now, what we need you to do is, if you have the means, if you're able to call now and make your contribution, 877-378-8669. Tip of the hat to our frontline funders, Azra in Illinois, Beth in North Carolina, Bill and Jane in California, Bill in Idaho, Bobby and Vivian in California, Brenda in Texas, Chandra in California, Charlene in Texas, Deb and John in Kentucky, Patricia in Washington, Mac and Tiana in Colorado, Jim in North Carolina, Joe and Heidi in Colorado, John and Susan in Florida, John in Indiana, Joe in D.C., Karen in California, Anonymous in New Mexico, Neil and Ruth in Washington, Ron and Becca in Florida, Shea in North Carolina, Susan in California, Suzanne in Virginia, and Thomas in California. Some just absolutely great people who have together put together this $50,000 match so that whatever you give will be doubled today and throughout the pledge drive. So what a great time to call and call right now. Wednesdays are sometimes very soft days for fundraising. Let's try to break through that right now and make your call, please, to Free Speech TV. There is, of course, the collection of premiums. There always is. With a $20 gift, you have your choice of the Thom Hartmann University bumper sticker, or the Take Action, Make History rainbow sticker, or the Free Speech TV Cool Sea, a drink holder. Those are with the $20 gifts. With the $50 gift, you have your choice of the Free Speech TV seed bombs, perfect for the season, right? Get your annuals going here. Or with the $50 gift, the Free Speech TV superhero tote bag, themed around our fundraising program here. So that's kind of cool. With a $75 gift, you have your choice of the Free Speech TV hat, the official Free Speech TV hat, or the official Thom Hartmann Program mug. Available nowhere else, only here through Free Speech TV. With a $100 gift, you have your choice of the book by Lauren Rankin, Bodies on the Line at the Front Lines of the Fight to Protect Abortion in America. Or, that, or the Free Speech TV superhero card set. You can collect all three. There's Deb Haaland, Kamala Harris, and Ketanji Brown Jackson as superheroes. With a $120 gift, you have your choice of the Free Speech TV superhero water bottle, or my newest book, The Hidden History of Big Brother in America, and how it's impacting our democracy. It's a really shocking book, frankly, and insight into everything that is going on in mostly on the web, but all across the whole, including how Russia declared war back in 2014 on Ukraine, a cyber war. What's going on with that? Anyhow, that's all in that book for that $120 gift, The Hidden History of Big Brother. With a $240 gift, you have your choice of the virtual meet and greet, where we all get together on Zoom and hang out and talk for a little bit, or the superhero box set, the tote card, which includes the tote bag and the cards, the superhero cards. That's the $240 gift. With a $1,000 gift, get in line to come here to Portland, hang out with us, and I'll buy you lunch. So those are all the premiums. But the important part is that your contribution is going to keep this network on the air, keep this show on this network. And that's, in my opinion, that's a pretty important thing. And that only happens if enough folks watching right now, like you, call 877-378-8669 right now and say, yes, I want to help. Here's my credit card. So please call now, and or go to freespeech.org. Thank you so much for caring about Free Speech TV. Our 1-hour free podcast recaps our show, and it's available wherever fine podcasts are found. And we have the full 3-hour podcast available over at thomhartmann.com if you want to really support our program. An amazing new report out from the Global Alliance on Health and Pollution suggesting that pollution is causing around 9 million premature deaths around the world, but 4.5 million of those are the consequence of outdoor air pollution, and the major contributor to that outdoor air pollution is cars and trucks. It turns out that cars and trucks that burn fossil fuels produce little teeny tiny particles. They're called PM 2.5 because they're smaller than 2.5 microns, essentially microscopic, that bury themselves deep inside your lungs and then migrate to the heart, the brain. They cause damage throughout the body. They can even cause lung cancer and heart disease and things. And guess what? Electric cars produce none of this. Also, when you hit the brakes on a regular car, you're burning your brake pads and throwing particles out into the air. On an electric car, you hit the brakes, you're slowing it down with the motors. There's a video about the whole thing over at thomhartmann.com. Check it out. And welcome back. 35 minutes past the hour, picking up your calls. Susan in Phoenix, Arizona. Hey, Susan, what's up?
Yeah, thanks, Tom. And I want to thank Sam Lawrence for what he's doing. I've run into something very similar. Unfortunately, it's not my district. I'm in CD1. CD8, Debbie Lesko is running uncontested. And I found out that we can have a write-in candidate up until June 23rd. And all we have to do is get 1,583 write-ins to make him a candidate. And I understand that it's expensive to run a congressional race, but if we can just get a sleeper candidate in there this time around, it could make a difference.
That's great.
She was actually booed off the stage. She was invited to talk to a graduation class, Arizona Digital Academy, and they actually booed her right off the stage.
Why?
I really think that, yes.
What did she say? Go ahead.
Well, they didn't put that in, but they did say that she started talking politics and got everybody mad, and she was booed off. So
was she the commencement speaker who started doing politics and they got her out of there after 8 minutes?
Something like that, yes.
Yeah,
here in Arizona.
I saw the story on that. I didn't realize who it was, and she's running unopposed. So yeah,
Yes.
You need to get a good Democrat in there.
Well, I've been trying to. I've talked to the last two candidates. They said, no, we put in so much of our own money into that race. I said, yeah, but it's a sleeper candidate. He even got on to announce how she was booed off and we have to vote her out. I said, Archie, we can't vote her out if there's nobody in there to vote her out with.
Right.
So we need a Sam Lawrence in this area.
Yeah. Well, hopefully somebody's listening. That's a state house race?
No, this is congressional, U.S.
Oh, wow.
congressional
So
seat.
she's running for the U.S. House of Representatives unopposed?
Debbie Lesko. You know who Debbie Lesko is, right? She's in Congress.
Oh, yeah.
She was part of the insurrection.
Yeah.
She's pulled into that. Now they say that our Supreme Court said that she is allowing them to run on in the ballot. But I'm not sure if the feds have any control over that. But I can say that she is. But she is being booed off the stage, so I think it's worth a shot.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, there you go.
I mean, I would be glad to help get those signatures or those write-ins.
Great. Well, I don't want you giving your phone number out on the air. I don't know how to do that. But if anybody, geez, how do we do this? I guess okay. Well, if anybody wants to reach Susan, I'm going to put you on hold when we're done, and you can give your contact information to Joyce. And if anybody calls in from Arizona and is thinking of running for Congress there, and they'd like your help, she'll connect you, or we'll connect the two of you. Okay.
CD8, Glendale, Peoria, and Surprise, those areas. If you got somebody that's up for it.
You've got it. Okay, Susan, I'm going to put you on hold here, and Joyce will pick you up. Edgar in Muskegon Heights, Michigan. Hey, Edgar, what's up?
Good afternoon. How you doing, Tom?
I'm well. How are you today?
I have two questions. I don't know if I can get them both in, but first one is, do we have any data that tells how many people have within the United States been protected by having an AR-15 in their possession?
That's a good question. I would guess that if anybody had ever succeeded in defending their home against a burglar or something with an AR-15, that the NRA would make sure we knew that person's name and knew all about it. I mean, those stories are few and far between, frankly.
The second question is this. Why can't we get some clarity? I've heard different descriptions of what it means, the Second Amendment, to keep and bear arms. I read a story of the guy that he's in prison. He was in for life. No, he was in for death because he got in he was belonged to the Black Panthers, and the police attacked him and ended up destroying most of them. And he shot one of them and killed him, and he got life. I think he's written several books. His name is Mahmoud Abu Jamal. He's still in prison now.
Yeah,
well,
Abdul Jamal.
Where's the clarity where if we were allowed to, everybody allowed to run around with guns like that? Even in the Old West, they had to check their guns in when they come into a place. In
the Old West, yeah. The sheriff of Tombstone did not tolerate people walking around with guns on their hips. The movies are not accurate portrayals of history. And the Second Amendment was not passed so that you or I could carry a gun. It was passed so that we could have state militias instead of a federal army during times of peace. I mean, that was the big debate that was held during the Constitutional Convention. There's reference to it in the Federalist Papers. You read the letters and correspondences of the founders and the framers, and it's absolutely unambiguous. So, spot on, Edgar. Thank you very much for the call. John in Logsdon, Oregon. Hey, John. Thanks for listening to Sirius XM. What's up?
Hey, Tom. Your caller from Maine was really pushing my buttons. But I wanted to thank you first for helping to get rid of Kurt Schrader.
You're welcome. What, did he represent you? Are you in his district?
Can't even talk about on the air with me. Huh?
Do you live in his district?
I did live in his district. Fortunately, I was spared by redistricting.
Okay. All right.
But anyhow, now I have to talk to you about a October 13th article in my local paper, the Toledo Town Hall this weekend. Mm-hmm. Oh, back to the guy from Maine talking about sludge. Mm-hmm. Ceres Utility Systems International, which wishes to bring a bio-waste recycling system to Toledo within the next 2 or 3 years. The system would take toxic material like sewage and recycle them into energy and clean water. The council received a presentation from Ceres in August and is looking into state or federal funding to bring such a facility to Toledo, right next door to the GP Mill, I imagine. The Ceres International, they all have like Russian names when I looked them up on the internet out of Salt Lake. But I think, it's part of Putin's plan just to poison America.
Well, maybe it's a good thing. I mean, you've got several communities in California now that are recycling their wastewater, their sewage water, and turning it into water that goes back into the water system.
Why, this system is going to be designed by oil refining engineers, and they've never built one.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's going to be just as big as we can make it here. Anyhow, what I wanted to say further, though, was we had a problem last year with the singe of trees around here in particular, out of Toledo, and there were a couple of other places that just happened to be adjacent to pulp mills. And I believe that these pulp mills, in that kind of heat, are letting out methane and causing the heat to get trapped adjacent to them. There were 3 areas, according to a story in the Tillamook Pioneer, that said that it named the locations of the 3. Anyhow, I went to Oregon Maps, and they had a map of timber industry stuff, and I punched in pulp mills, and there's 3 those.
Yeah, John, I can tell you the science on methane, or any greenhouse gas for that matter, is that if you had high local concentrations, it's still not going to act as a greenhouse gas. It has to be in the larger atmosphere. But I get your concerns about the plant in Ohio. I think you said it was. It's dangerous stuff. Lance in Columbus, speaking of Ohio, Lance in Columbus, Ohio. Hey, Lance, what's on your mind?
Hey, Tom, how you doing there?
Good. What's up?
Good, good. Hey, Tom, wanted to speak about the gas price, and particularly diesel. You know, we know that the diesel prices are really up there, and just so people know, especially when you go to the supermarket and you start shopping, a regular tractor trailer holds about 300 gallons of diesel, right? So if you're talking 550 or better, you're looking at about $1,600, close to $1,700 before the wheels even turn.
Right. To fill your tank.
Right. Now, the CEO of Pilot and Flying J, they came out with a news story saying that Union Pacific is making that because they're one of the biggest producers of DEF, which is an additive that the newer trucks have to use. They're making them cut their production 50%. Because their DEF is transported by the railroads. So if they're making them cut their production, that means the prices for the DEF and diesel and everything else is going to go up. And when you look at that, a number of these trucking companies are starting to go out of business. And if if enough of these companies start to go under and go out of business, Tom, you're going to see the prices in the supermarket start to explode.
Oh yeah. Well, we're gonna see that probably within a month anyway, because the Russians have blockaded the ports, the southern ports in Ukraine, and Ukraine supplies about 10% of the world's wheat, and or maybe it's Ukraine and Russia, and of course, as Professor Wolff mentioned, the Russian exports are being blocked by our embargoes. So between those two, I am very concerned that we're going to see really substantial increases in food prices because, grains are going up. And of course, it takes pounds and pounds and pounds of grain to make 1 pound of meat. So you got meat prices are going to go up, too. So there you go. Lance, thanks a lot for the call. Yeah, good to hear from you. 46 minutes past the hour. Back with your calls on the other side of this break. Stick around.
You're listening to Thom Hartmann. Visit ThomHartmann.com for audio and video archives.
Speaking the truth, the multinational corporations and the oil industry would really rather you didn't know all about. We'll be right back. And welcome back. Carol in Hemet, California. Hey, Carol, what's on your mind today?
Hey, Tom. Very quickly, an observation and a fact.
Okay.
I am ethnically, I am half German American, half Hispanic. So I have had a chance, and I'm fluent in Spanish, fluent. So I have been able to witness my Hispanic brothers and sisters for a lifetime of 68 years. And two things. A lot of Hispanics are Catholic, but every church I've ever gone into that's an evangelical church is chock full of Hispanic people. They love the evangelicals. And yes, so we got a double whammy of
right, and the evangelicals
on the abortion.
And the evangelicals are embracing the Republicans.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Very conservative. Pick up all of you listen to the sermons, and it's like, we won't go into that because that's not my point. But the other thing is that there is racism there, and therefore some will lean towards the white supremacy stuff because some consider themselves white rather than Hispanic. They're white first. And they don't want those indigenous people coming across the border, from El Salvador, or even from Mexico, the indigenous populations. They are not Afro-Americans. They're not down with black people, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So it's a very curious thing. And you will find Caribbeans from the Dominican Republic darker skinned than an Afro-American, from our country, standing next to them, and they'll go, "I'm not black." It's anyway, that's all about divide and conquer, you know what I'm saying, and propagandizing and
yeah, and the whole white supremacy thing, telling Hispanics that they're superior to African Americans. It goes back to LBJ's comment. If you tell the lowest white man that he's higher than the highest black man, he'll let you pick his pocket all day long. And I think if you if you just replaced white man with Hispanic man, it still works. The formula still works.
And moving on to the fact.
Okay.
Fact is, since Obama, just one arm of one group, the Koch brothers, they have this Libre fund. Libre is Spanish for free. And the Libre Trust. You can Google this stuff. And the Libre Trust, among other things, besides going around Latino neighborhoods, especially very poor ones, and handing out, I don't know, $20, $30 bags of groceries, along with leaflets and flyers and propaganda. That's how they attract them, plus all of the radio stuff that we've been talking about and TV. But more important than the groceries, they are telling them that they have, since Obama, that they have a pathway, if they could just get in power, for them to be able to stay here. Not citizenship, but a work visa that would allow them to, hey, you've been working here. We respect that for what, 10, 15, 2 years, 30, blah, blah. You know, come on over. You'll be able to go back to your country. And the other thing is, we're going to respect your small business entrepreneurship. You'll be rich. And this is what I hear from my brothers and sisters.
Wow.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Carol, for the report. That's
the
fascinating.
Democrats need to do better messaging and better policy.
Amen. I'm with you. Thank you. 51 minutes past the hour. Hey, I've got a new book out. It's called The Hidden History of Big Brother in America, How the Death of Privacy and the Rise of Surveillance Threaten Us and Our Democracy. Available wherever you find fine books. The Houston Chronicle just published a blistering editorial calling out Republican Governor Greg Abbott of Texas, saying, you know, Texas lawmakers won't even pass universal background checks to keep guns out of the hands of dangerous people, even though 80% of Texans support them. They go on to say Texas had 1 million registered weapons in 2021, more than second place Florida and third place Virginia combined. The United States leads all wealthy nations with its gun murder rate. At the end of it, they say, we call on Abbott, whose campaign war chest is comfortably overflowing in his re-election bid against Democrat Beto O'Rourke, to replenish his bankrupt conscience and do something, anything, to stop the blood of children and the tears of parents. This is the entire editorial board of the Houston Chronicle calling out Greg Abbott. Got a video about the whole thing over at thomhartmann.com. Check it out. Welcome back. Picking up your phone calls. Mike in Brooklyn, listening on Sirius XM. Hey, Mike, what's up?
Yeah, I was just thinking, why doesn't the president enact the Resurrection Act of and put martial law?
The Insurrection Act.
The Insurrection Act of 1860, and that would put him in control of the United States over the governors, and president order to eliminate those guns.
Well, because I don't think there's an insurrection going on right now.
Well,
Mike.
see, we're saying about, we got guys in the South over here walking around like so, the 16s and 15s, and you know that's giving the enemy, and the South will rise again. We see it in our face. They did it on January 6th. They're going to do it again.
Yeah.
We've given them guns.
No, I get it, Mike. I don't think the Insurrection Act is the solution, but we do have a problem. I'm with you. Brian in Albuquerque. Hey, Brian, what's on your mind today?
Hey, good afternoon. Whenever I dare to engage in a political conversation with somebody, like if I'm at a cookout or something and some loudmouth is lipping off about the president, I'll listen to him for a little bit. And then I'll always ask him, who is your representative in the House? And you'd be amazed, like 80% of people have no idea.
Wow.
And that's part of the problem. And I'll say, well, how come you don't know that? I go, the most important person you have, or you're linked to the federal government, is your representative in the House.
Right.
And then it's also your 2 senators. And so to all your listeners, if you don't know who your rep is in the House, you're part of the problem. So let's start from there. We got to get to fundamentals. And that's all I got to say.
Okay, well, you said it very well, Brian. Thank you very much. Frederick in Pontiac, Michigan. Hey, Frederick, what's up?
Oh, hey, Tom, this is my, hello?
Yeah, you're on the air.
This is my, yeah, okay. This is my first call to your program.
Well, thank you.
And I'm calling, but I have listened to you over the years, my first time calling in. But listen, you said something before the break, and I said, my God, I hope I can get through. You made a reference to, you thought that the Saudis, Saudi Arabia, and Russia under Putin wants Trump back in the White House. This is why
I do believe that to be true.
Putin invaded. Yes, and I've been telling friends this for months.
Yeah.
Since Putin invaded Ukraine, I said, look, Russia is going through all of these sanctions. Well, in effect, we're having some economic turmoil here. High gas prices, high food prices, inflation is.
No, and an awful lot of it has to do with those oil policies. Frederick, you're absolutely right. I want to get one last caller in here. I just noticed Kenyatta's on the board. Hey, Kenyatta, we just got a minute to the end of the show. You want to put a punctuation mark on something?
You're damned right I do. No surprise is a surprise. I wrote a piece called Blue and Yellow and Black and White. Anyone that wants to see it is at opednews.com. Recently, and in that .com, I'm sorry, opednews.com. As you know, there is a America Summit that Venezuela, Cuba, Mexico have declined to go to. These things are triangulation of the United States, but as we talk about this shortage and supply chain, which has been going on since COVID, Tom, let me tell you something that's not on your radar. I want to put it on your radar. The longshoremen of 29 ports that supply 50% of the goods that come into the United States from where you are in Oregon to Washington and California are about to go on strike in July. This is going to get quantitatively worse.
Whoa. Okay, Kenyatta, thanks. It's always great to hear from you. I appreciate the call. We'll be back tomorrow, same bat time, same bat channel. In the meantime, don't forget, democracy is not a spectator sport. It requires all of us. And hey, if you know any 19-year-olds who are willing to run for the state house or for school board or for city council, or you could too, right? No matter how old you are. Get out there, get active, tag, you're it. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great afternoon.
You've been listening to Thom Hartmann. For audio and video archives, visit thomhartmann.com.
These companies support the Thom Hartmann Program. They are HelloFresh, the #1 meal kit delivery service. More info at HelloFresh.com, code TOM. The Hidden History of Big Brother in America, how the death of privacy and the rise of surveillance threaten us and our democracy, by Thom Hartmann. More information at all book outlets. Wild Alaskan Company, 100% sustainable wild-caught seafood delivered right to your door. More info at wildalaskancompany.com/Tom. Cozy Earth, better sleep, better you. More info at cozyearth.com, promo code TOM. The latest views and opinions from U.S. politics and other fascinating subjects too, including cutting-edge science reports at HartmannReport.com. And Dinovite, a whole food supplement for your pet's immune system. More info at Dinovite.com.